and ever-changing bills, and computer terminology, Commodore reviews. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, and welcome to episode 95 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 39 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were terrorized by Trigger Happy, wizened by Wizard Wars, and ran off the road by Road Wars. This week, we conclude our look at the games in July 1988, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. So Graham, please tell us that there is something good to look forward to in this slot.
In this delicious combination of cheese, baked beans, and jacket potato of an episode, we flex our best brain muscles as we command lines to herd dots into colour blocks. In the better than my description, Brainstorm, we leave the circus and nip back to Cremina in our best strongman pants to breathe fire on the spectromatic port awfulness of Karnov. We explore a nightmarish alternative 8-bit universe where leaderboard golf wasn't invented with the utterly terrible Pro Golf, and then continue our journey in the tight combat pants of Johnny McGibbets exactly one day after the last time in the deja vu-fueled Infiltrator II the next day. Are you a beans on first then cheese kind of person? Or are you insane? We also clip on our extendable robot grappling claw and explore the world of the swinger. Not that kind of swinging, though. We actually climb about the jungles killing stuff in Bionic Commandos. We grab our imaginary laser weapons and run around with our taggers out in the fun physical activity turned unwanted game, Lazer Tag. We scoot around the good ship Orion kicking some Z-Men posterior, all in the guise of roll-top kitchen recycle bins in 5th Quadrant, before finally getting all out of sequence and wandering around yet another Magic Night escapade before dying of boredom in Stormbringer. It doesn't matter to me which way round you have your jacket potato, beans and cheese, it's all good. Unlike some of these games, some of those are not so good.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
That doesn't fill me with confidence.
No, actually, no. I thought there was light at the end of the tunnel. It turns out it's just a knobhead with a torch. And the tunnel's endless.
It's just a darkness forevermore. Yeah. I don't know when this is going to end. I mean, it's I thought it was supposed to get good. Everyone told us when we did this, wait till you get to 1988, it's all the good stuff. They lied.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Massive
they
liars.
They lied, yeah. Liars. Liar!
I was like, it's got to get through 1986, it'll be all good. It's got to get through 1987, it'll be all good. We'll be done by this podcast, and it'll be like, it'll be all good.
Do you know, it's made me think there was probably better games en masse, more of them in 1984. So,
maybe.
Because looking at the chart, every time we've looked at the chart, it's filled with games from 1984 or 85, even at budget level.
Yeah.
These new ones are not cutting the mustard, are they? They're not doing it.
No, they're not. I'm not quite sure what's going on here in the publishing houses of the day. They are publishing a lot of rubbish.
I think we'll get some insight this week onto a little bit of it, actually, because there's a couple of the games we've got which have got little interesting side notes and things.
Well, I look forward to that.
Intriguing.
Intriguing indeed. I'm just going to put it here. If you wish to support us, let's just get it out of the way at the front. You can do so. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/zapped to the past. There are 2 tiers. There's one just £1 or whatever whatever that is in your country. Or the other one's £4.50. And again, whatever that is where you are. And that one gets you access to our Discord server. It gets you ability to ask us questions for Ask the Podcast. Gets
ad-free.
You the ad-free episodes early as well.
Those
early. You get them early before the weekend.
You get early access.
You do.
When we talk about podcast friend Gary, that's a terrifying proposition at best. But he likes that. He likes it. He likes early access himself.
He likes to be surprised. He doesn't like to know when it's happening.
Explains a great deal, actually. But yeah, it's definitely worth £1 of anyone's money.
Yeah, so if you wish to do that, then you can go over there, patreon.com/Zapped to the past, and that would be cool. Right, that out of the way, should we get into some games? Let's get into some games.
I think we probably ought to do that, really.
8 games to get through. All right, let's get into our first one then. And our first one is a budget title, 94%, Graham. 94.
That's pretty shiny. That's pretty shiny.
So shiny, it got a silver medal.
Wow, okay.
A silver medal, it got 94%. This is Brainstorm, not to be confused with the film of the same name, which I think was pretty rubbish, if I remember rightly. Dennis Quaid in it.
Is that the one where they record dreams on machine?
Could be that one, yes.
Am I thinking of Dreamscape? I
think that might be Dreamscape. I don't know. There's a film called Brainstorm, I'm sure there is. Anyway, this is a budget puzzle title from Firebird. And yeah, it got 94%. Firebird, 94%. What is the world coming to? Anyway, this is for silver medal, as I said. And when you first play it, you may think, what on earth are they on about? No music, it's just lines, coloured blocks, a moving ball. How can this be worth 94%? Well, let's see if we can find out. This comes from the mind of Pete Cook, Graham. Pete Cook, remember him?
Is he John Cook's brother?
No, he's Margie Cook's boy.
Yeah. He lives next door to Cookie.
Yeah, he lives next door to the baker and the candlestick maker.
Oh, baking cakey.
Baking candle makery. Him, Sticky.
Baking cakey and candles sounds like a gangster. That's like a little team of gangsters, isn't it?
Why are you
get bakey, get cakey. What about candles?
He never goes out.
Oh, very good. I like that, actually.
Yeah,
writes down characters for some kind of gangster story. Thanks.
Anyway, no, Pete Cook, he's the man behind Tau Ceti. He designed the original Tau Ceti. I was reading an interview with him on Retro Gamer the other day, and he did that. He also did Room 10.
Oh, that being very good.
Yeah, so it's a big up and then a big down. It's quite the climb. And the C64 conversion for this has been handled by David Kirby. He's also listed on Lemon 64 as the musician as well.
He might be.
No music.
There is. It's just really quiet. So quiet, in fact, you might not have heard it.
Yeah, that's the one. Maybe no dogs could hear it. Anyway, Brainstorm. First boot up, this looks a bit like Kix, QAX, from the outside. Lines and balls. Looks a bit like it, but it's not. It's not like Kix at all, really. So when it boots up, the game's got plenty of options. It allows you to define your own keys, select the starting screen from 5 of the 26 available. The 26 levels are just letters of the alphabet, so A to Z, and you can start A, F, whatever it is. You start 5 of them. And you can change the difficulty level from easy, medium, or hard. And I'll actually expand on how they change the game in a bit later. So after picking the level and the difficulty, you start the game. So the main game screen is a very simple game. What it looks like, it's just made up of taking up most of the screen on the left. It's like a large square. It's got some coloured blocks in it, ranging which are range from 5 colours. So you've got red, magenta, blue, black, and green, and it's just those kind of shapes. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see 3 small lines. Well, you'll see 3 small lines in easy and hard mode. You'll only see 2 in medium mode. At the top is a single ball in easy mode and medium mode, and 2 balls in hard mode. Matron. To the right of this is the UI, which tells you your current score, the score you got last time in the last level, the time remaining on this level, and the 3 lines that you can choose from: 1 cyan, 1 yellow, and 1 white. And they correspond to the lines at the bottom of the screen in the main game window. It's hard to make them out a little bit, but you can see that one's white, one's yellow, one's cyan, and those kind of. I'm not going to say what you control because you don't actually control them so much. If you press the fire button, these starts the ball or the balls at the top bouncing around inside the main game window, so they'll just head off and they'll start bouncing about. And the timer starts decreasing quite fast. You control a pointer, so you don't control anything. All you control is like this pointer, so you don't control the lines or anything, you just control a pointer. Move this into the main window, and if you press fire, your selected coloured line, so one of those lines, whatever you picked on the right, will basically start drawing a line towards where you've clicked on the screen. So if you pick the one on the left, which is the white one or the cyan one, that will just, if you click somewhere, it'll just start drawing a line towards where you've clicked. Okay, if the ball hits your line, it will bounce off it. So what you've got to do is, in this way, you've got to kind of control where the ball is using the 3 different lines. So you can kind of construct like triangles and blocks and sort of shape it and confine the ball to where you need it to be. And the reason you want to do this is because the different coloured blocks affect the score and the ball. So the black and blue colours, if the ball is travelling over them, they do nothing. So they're kind of free space. They don't do anything. If the ball is travelling over red blocks, it makes your present score go up. If it goes over a magenta block, it makes your score go down. If it goes over a green block, it warps the ball to a random place on the map. So that's it. That's your rules. That's it, really. The aim of the game, the objective of the game is to try and trap the ball with your drawn lines, so the lines that you're drawing around, to make sure it's travelling mostly over red blocks, as this will increase your score. Okay, that's it. So you just got to trap this ball, but it's constantly moving, and you're constantly trying to draw these lines. The objective of each level is to make sure that you get a higher score on this level than you did on the previous one. So in easy mode, your score starts on 100. If after that level you manage to score 120, so you had the ball on a red bit and it went up enough and it went up to 120, then the next level will start with your base score at 120. So you need to get higher than 120. So you've got to get the ball onto the red somehow and get it up and get your score going up. If it goes on the magenta, it'll go down. So if you get it onto magenta, it's going to start counting down. If you end the level with a score less than the previous one, that's how you lose. That's what it's game over. So that's essentially it. Okay. You've got on medium mode, you've got less lines to control the ball. So you've only got 2 lines. So trapping it is harder. The lines are not. It's hard to describe what to do. You can actually just hold down the fire and move it around, and they'll just keep drawing towards you. So they're not directly straight lines. They can angle, and they can, you can draw a triangle out of just one of the lines, but they're a finite length, so that you can't just keep drawing. They will eventually start running out. They're not that long. They're not as long as the sort of width of the screen or the height of the screen. So they will start running out. That's why you need to use them quite sensibly and you work quickly, because that countdown's going. And obviously on hard mode, there's more balls. There's 2 balls bouncing around, so there's more chance of it going over magenta. And harder to control. So that's the challenge. So you can set this level of challenge to what you want. But if you were like me, just doing easy mode will start to break your brain. It's very hard, this game, because it is. It seems deceptively simple, this, but like all good puzzlers, you'll soon find yourself swearing in frustration as the ball bounces just where you didn't want it to, or your line is just too short to block it in, or it'll just squeeze through the smallest of gaps. When you draw lines over other ones, when they sort of, when they move over them and they've run out and they sort of go delete themselves, it'll cut bits out of other lines, so they'll be cutting holes in the lines that you thought were solid, and then the ball will bounce out of them. The ball, it just seems to happen a lot, but it's your fault, really, because you drew the line. It's up to you. Or you'll try and block it in, and you'll block it on magenta, and you'll just see your score going down. You're then trying to desperately get the line away from it to sort of trap it, and it gets very frustrating very quickly, and you'll be game over. And it's like, games can be over very quickly in this when you just do the wrong thing. You don't get much time in each level. The countdown goes down fast, so mistakes are hard to recover from. And like I said, a decent run can be quickly wiped away by an ill-judged line draw. And this is a bit frustrating. It is, but it's but you'll probably just try again. It's very Moorish, this game. It's one of those games where once you grasp it, you've got it. Like Kicks, like good puzzle games, and then you'll be battling against it, trying to get your lines in. What's the best strategy? Where do I need to draw first of all, and where do I need to bounce it in and keep it in and trap it and put it in that part of the screen, because there's more red for it to bounce around. There's some issues, though. Found sometimes the bounce of the ball was just a bit off. Sometimes it won't bounce exactly as I thought it would. Not all the time. It's usually okay, just a couple of moments, so that was a bit annoying. And from a control standpoint, you're controlling a pointer with a digital input. We've said this about other games, and so although there's some acceleration, we're moving in a direction, it's still not quite sensitive enough. It's a joystick. This is a game screaming out for a mouse. And I think with a mouse, this would be so much better and so much nicer. I'd love this, on the Amiga. I imagine this was ever ported to the Amiga. This would be great because you got a mouse. But beyond that, the main issue I found was the selection of the lines, because you have to constantly move across to the right, click on the one you want, then move back into the main window and start drawing again. Then when you've done that one, got the way you want, go back and think it all the time. The ball's constantly moving about, and gets quite frustrating. I'd have killed for a quick line select. Just pressing 1, 2, and 3 to flick between them. I think that would have made this game a hell of a lot better, because you're moving your joystick, you press the fire, only 2, right, do that one, 3, right, do that one. I don't know. I don't think this would have impacted too much on it. The game's already hard enough without fighting the slowness of the pointer. And I think that a line select would have just made it a little bit more amenable to the player, would have afforded you a better control over what's going on. It's just a bit clunky having to go across to the right, because it's a digital input still, and sometimes you miss the line you want to click on, and you're wasting time and trying to get back into but maybe that was just me. I don't know. The graphics and sound are very simple in this. There's nothing but lines and blocks of color and the odd noise when the ball bounces, or a note when you select a letter in the high score table. But really, it's not what's important here. This is all about a simple idea, and I think this is a quite accomplished and devious action puzzler, because it's not one where you can take a step back and think about it. You've really got to be on your toes all the time. You can see how it draws from kicks, but then does something different with it. And the idea of competing against yourself each level is quite clever, until I actually thought about it. And I don't think it actually makes any real difference, does it? As it could have started at 0 each level and just had to make sure you were over it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a gimmick. I don't know. But, but I suppose it's a high score table, so you are chasing high scores. So, all right, fair enough. It entices you to go back. But it could have just added up all your scores from the levels, whatever. I don't know where it really works. Whatever. It is what it is. The thing is, I think it's very clever. It's a very good game. It's good to see what Pete Cook could do when he was trying to, when he wasn't trying to reinvent Pong in 3D with no gravity and just doing something really clever and simple and easy and just like, this. Like I said, simple idea, done well. Abstract, frustrating, and addictive. It's no frills, but it doesn't need any frills because it's about the purity of that central idea. And I like this. I just wish it had a quick select for the lines, but I got on with this. I can see why they gave it 90% because I imagine this would have been, if they were all high score chasing in that office, I could imagine this being quite playing that one level and trying to beat each other's scores. Yeah, I can see that happening quite a lot. Yeah, 94%. I've got no arguments. As a budget title, £2, you'd get a lot of enjoyment out of this, I think. A lot going on here. I liked it. What about you?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the key, really, isn't it? For £2, you're getting quite a lot of puzzle for your money, aren't you? It's hard. And I quite like the idea of the logic. It gave me sort of a weird Tron vibe as well, Tron's light cycles kind of vibe.
Yeah, there's that too, yeah.
Sort of, there's a bit of that in there. There's obviously kicks definitely in there. And it's just a nice idea implemented well. I mean, yeah, aside from that one little annoyance, which is just you just need either something to flip between the three options or like a space bar even, or 1, 2, 3 or something like that. But that's the bit of the curse of joysticks as well. Joysticks just aren't really great for moving cursors and mouse and pointers. Maybe a mouse maybe it would have worked in this. It sort of has that feel to it. But that slight issue aside, it's a nice budget playable puzzler. It's nice, easy. It's nice to just load up a game and just be able to get into it. No 6-page novella to read and no, all of that. It's just nice and straightforward. So I enjoyed my time with it. It's trap the dot, isn't it? So they say trap the dot in the red, I suppose, to get the best scores. And I quite like the idea. And when you get to some of the later levels, they're, it's not like the red squares are really easy to navigate the dot to. Some of them are tiny. Yeah, it's really quite hard. Now, yes, it's good for £2. It's definitely worthy of its silver medal, and I think 94% is a good score for it. I think that's all good. I think also, a testament to the simplicity and longevity of this, how many mobile games play on the logic like this, of this kind of logic, where you've got, you're moving, there's so many of them, even those ones where you're slicing up the backgrounds. I can't remember what they're even called now, but there's a couple of them that are like that. There's loads of them on mobile. It's that kind of idea. I mean, it's almost lends itself to mobile, really.
Just drawing a line on the screen sort of thing to do.
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah. It's mobile games before they even knew what mobile games would be. And I think, you've got 26 levels to go at. You're going to be at them for a while because it's bloody hard. And then you've got the multiple, the novice and the, to advanced. I think it's pretty good. I think it was a nice, simple, compelling puzzler game. And for budget money, that's not bad at all, is it? That's a good, challenging and interesting thing for £2. Nice. Yeah, good. Really good. I enjoyed my little time with it. One of the games you go back to. That's why I think it's pre-mobile gaming, that for definite.
Yeah. So, it is.
Yeah. Excellent value for money. It's even pre-mobile pricing as well. Well, that's actually expensive nowadays for a mobile game, isn't it? But
it is, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All good. Excellent. Brainstorm, yeah. Go play it. Go try it out.
Yeah, it's good fun. Here we go. That's our first one. We like Brainstorm. Let's hope it continues that way. I say this every week and it never does, but you never know.
Yeah, we do know.
Oh, don't ruin the surprise. I'd like there to be a little bit of
surprise to be ruined.
It's a suspense for our listeners. It might be good what's coming up.
The suspense is now just how much we're going to hate it.
True. All right, there you go. That's Brainstorm. We like that. Let's see how much we hate the next one. Let's move on to that. Because Graham, you're going to tell us all about Karnov.
I am. So Karnov was a classic, for at least timely 1988 13%er in Zapped, £10. It's an arcade conversion from a Data East arcade, I think from 1987.
Yeah.
An arcade I've never seen in my life, ever.
No,
at least not knowingly. Although the main sprite with his bright red pants. I had a feeling I'd seen something of that, but anyway, I had a quick look at the arcade for this, and it is really weird, but I'd never seen it before. So anyway, it is an arcade conversion. Now, arcade conversions don't generally fare well, do they? Data East ones particularly have had a bit of a bad time, especially when Activision and Electric Dreams are involved. just something hasn't gone to plan.
The developer here was Mr. Micro, otherwise known as Greg Duddle, Mr. Willow Patton himself. John Boy, I'm guessing not from the farm, the old, what do you call it? What's it called? What was it called, that program?
Waltons.
The Waltons, yeah. So John Boy from the Waltons, Gary Patchen, the Waltons. Gary Patchen was also on Code Duties. Rob Nicholson also on Code Duties. It was produced by Software Studios. I'm trying to make sense of all of that. I've got the instructions here, and I'm going to just read you the sort of the tale of Karnov because I think it's important.
Okay.
Because the game ain't going to take long. So can Karnov save the world? This story, by the way, is the same for the arcade, principally, as it is for all other versions. The story of Karnov's legendary quest begins peacefully enough in the small village of Cremina.
Cremina?
Cremina. It's a pudding.
I was thinking of cremola, like an 80s.
Yeah, it's like that.
80s pudding.
That's the arch enemy. That's the arch enemy of the Creminans. Anyway, it's located, in case you didn't know, and you can Google this if you want. It's roughly in the middle of that vast expanse of land known as the Russian Steppes, otherwise known as the Wonderland. Don't look it up on Google Maps. Nothing good can come of that. Jinborov Karnovsky, Wonderland, spelled W-U-N-D-E-R, Wonderland.
Oh, Wonderland.
So Jinborov Karnovsky, known more simply as Karnov by his friends, that's you and me, that is, had returned to the village after a lifetime of travelling the country as a circus strongman. Old Karnov was looking forward to a quiet life, with the biggest excitement being an evening telling tales of his circus exploits down at the local tavern. Yes. Little did he know, but his adventures were far from over. He was about to embark on a new journey that would test his enormous strength to the full. Burn, 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 burn. Only a few of the village's oldest inhabitants knew Cremina's secret. The secret of Cremina. It's to put the rice before you put the custard in. Now, the ramshackle collection of buildings was the hiding place of one of the world's most awesome treasures. The treasure of Babylon had been hidden away from the world in Cremina for centuries, protected by the forces of light. Legend had it, so the elders said anyway, that a great evil would visit the world if the treasure fell into the wrong hands. But they felt that the treasure was safe. After all, Cremina was the last place anyone would look for treasure. Always the same.
Always
they were right.
The same.
Cremina was the last place Ryu, an awesome and evil wizard, looked for the treasure of Babylon. After thousands of years searching the world for this ancient artifact, his spies had at last reported its location. Surrounded by his demonic minions, the great wizard hit Cremina like a hurricane and made off with the treasure of Babylon. But he wasn't finished. To punish the villagers of Cremina, but it was a town. Anyway, to punish the villagers of Cremina, he left behind an assortment of monsters to terrorize those who had dared to hide the treasure from him. It took him thousands of years. I'm guessing the last generation of Creminans are already paying the price for those early good hiders. Anyway, Karnov knew that only he had the power to defeat Ryu and return the treasure to its hiding place. After all, not everyone in Cremina could breathe fire like he could. Well, it would be a novel thing if they all did it, wouldn't it?
that village would be on the map.
Come to Cremina, where we all breathe fire. Do you? You do. Cursing his strange talent and his luck. Why would you curse you? You just made a living out of that. Crazy man. Cursing his strange talent and his luck. Man. And he breathes fire. Karnov set out to find a way through the monster-infested countryside. Let me just pull you back
a moment here. Hang on. If I went to a circus, right, and they had a guy who breathed fire, but were marketing him as a strong man, I'd be like, you've got that the wrong way round. His ability is, we can have, anyone can be a strong man.
Well, he could be both, a strong fire breather.
But no one.
Possible.
There's only one fire breather is what I mean. That's a rarity.
Well, yeah, he cursed his strange talent, so obviously he doesn't like it. Anyway, so Karnov sets out to find a way through the monster-infested countryside, seeking the fragments of a long-lost map to guide him on his way. Never make a map to your secret treasure. Just saying. He knew he had to seek out and defeat Ryu and regain the treasure of Babylon. Otherwise, the world was doomed. The world was doomed.
World.
Okay, that's the story of Karnov. It's summarized better on the cassette, but I didn't think there was any point in reading that. No. And it's much more exciting to read that than it's to say walk to the right and jump over stuff. So, okay, bloody Karnov game, right? So obviously the objective then of the game is, as I've said, find Ryu and get the treasure back and do all of that sort of stuff. This is a side-scrolling game.
Yeah.
Well, it's side-scrolling in every other version than the C64. I wouldn't call that scrolling, really. I think that's stretching the word scrolling to its very limit. So the main game sees you in a side-scrolling-ish, let's call it that, shuffle vision.
Shuffle vision.
Shuffle vision. On a mission to navigate the weird levels and avoid stuff. And when I say stuff, there is a random collection of shit in this game. They make a point of saying on the cassette inlay, by the way, right at the bottom, it says, "Have you ever been killed by a skeleton on an ostrich?" Now, there's something you don't read every day on a cassette box. And it turns out that a lot more people had than they first thought. Anyway, let's go. Sorry, it's just an interesting aside. Anyway, you move the Karnov sprite, we'll call it that, with the joystick, with the rest of the screen gradually chugging and humping around like a C-64 Lenny to your George. Yeah, I don't know if that was a good description. You can fireball things and seemingly fart out and collect other items. Other items are useful to you in this game. Other items such as boots, which makes you jump higher and further, which is painful in this game because when you jump, the screen doesn't jump at the same speed as you. No. Kind of hoys around at one block at a time. And
One
you can get
block
a bomb.
a second.
There's a ladder. If you pick a ladder up, you can just fart out a ladder, it seems to be. Just farts and a ladder appears and you can
See,
climb
he's
up
got
it for no
loads of-
reason
He's
whatsoever.
got loads more powers than just being a strongman.
Yeah, strongman. He literally can fart out ladders. And he says, you know what? The benefit of having a ladder is it's so you can go higher, obviously, but that's all. It's so you can avoid enemy attacks by getting higher. I'm like, what? There's a boomerang, which gives you extra power. There's something called a clapper. Which is not, it's their version, it's Karnov's version of a smart bomb is a clapper. It's just,
Didn't we have
no.
something similar to that in some crap game where you drop something and it was, what was it? It was that Odin game where you were running around that map and then went into those buildings and he had that, he clapped, didn't he? He had massive arms.
Yes. He had a clap. Yes, he did. He had big, huge clappy hands. Yeah. You can get glasses in this that allow you to see extra things. You pick up a swimming mask at one point, which is of no use to you till you get to stage 5, which is the swimming stage. If you don't have it by then, you're fucked. So, you better have it. You can get wings, which means you can fall from a high place. But if you've got the ability to fart out ladders, you don't need them. But unfortunately, you actually need the wings for stage 8. Otherwise, you can't actually complete the game either. So if you haven't got them, again, refer to the what happens if you don't have the swimming mask at the right time.
See point A.
There's also shields you can get and also K marks, which will give you an extra life if you collect 50 of them. You're never going to do that in a million years, ever.
No, because there's only 49 in the game.
Ever. Yep.
There might not be.
Anyway.
I don't know. It's all crap.
You can also pick up super fireballs. So, by the way, in the game, you've got 3 lives in the game. If you get hit, you don't die immediately, you go blue. And if you get hit again while you're blue, you lose a life.
And when you do lose a life, you do a massive barbarian fall.
Oh, he does a full epic. He's a big guy. He's gonna block a lot of ground out.
He's a strong man who can fart ladders.
If you pick up a super fireball when you're blue, you get restored to your normal colour. Just so you know. That's as much as the information I'm giving you about the way the game plays out, because that is all there is. So you can fireball things, fart out ladders, and odd-looking things get in your way. They're meant to be skeletons and ostriches. I think that's what they were once. Not in this version, they're not, though. Just a collection of crap. You clash with the background images because it uses what looks like characters and screen graphics instead of actual hardware sprites. Of course, it doesn't use hardware sprites on a machine that has them. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you use the scrolling register, in the VIC chip? Why wouldn't you use that? Who knows why they don't use the very things that are important to making these games work? Nobody knows that. This is why he takes out the bottom of his car, the guy that made this game, pulls the engine out and just pedals it everywhere he goes because it's much better to do it that way.
He wants to be in the Flintstones.
He's Mr. Flintstone. So you can fireball things and obviously do all of that. And there is this horrible sort of clashing that goes on. The enemies are unavoidable because as you slowly clump around, jumping if you can and avoiding things, it's all slow. This is a slow, ploddy game, very slow. And the background doesn't keep up with you. So if you jump, for example, at an angle, the background doesn't scroll at an angle. It goes up and then to the right. It's horrible. It's just wrong. It's wrong. It should not do that. So as you're sort of clumping and flumping around in this game, periodically climbing up something and jumping about, well, it's not nice. I actually couldn't stand it for very long because it is terrible. You can't play it. It's not a playable game, this, in any way. It's not playable. The sound effects are horrible and they're basically a Spectrum, and that's the same sounds you get on a Spectrum. And there's an obvious reason for that, because this is a really bad Spectrum port. If you go and look at the Sinclair Spectrum 48K version, it actually runs okay on that because it's designed for that. But this is a horrific port where there's been no passion or attempt to even address any of the issues and make it right for the C64. The C64 is more than capable of delivering on a game like this. I mean, you're not really that far off Ghosts and Goblins or any one of those types of games. I mean, we play Bionic Commandos later in this, and that's not really that far off that either. Any game where you've got a single sprite jumping up and down platforms and leaping about and things. Well, we've seen loads of games that do that, and they're all better than this, even the really bad ones. So this is obviously a version of that arcade, but the C64 version is a rush port. an unforgivable one at that. All of the horror of a bad Spectrum port that we've seen in other games in other times is all here. Detailed, but horrible graphics in weird coloured high res that admittedly look a bit like what they're meant to, but they don't really. Clashing and bad collision, terrible scrolling, horrible audio. What you're left with is something that is not only truly awful, but a bad imitation of something that's really awful. I mean, that takes some doing. You made something even crapper than it was originally.
That's not count. It's imitation.
This is a crappy version. It is the thing, dog. This is. It's half imitated, and it's just been shot with a shotgun. It should have been. So you get all of those horrific things that are wrong with it. I mean, the list is endless. This is badly put together. The title screen's it's just a Spectrum game on a Commodore 64, and it has all the problems that you would associate with that. So there's no love present in this. This wasn't a work of anyone's passion or anything else like that. This was shoehorned onto a Commodore 64 with no due care and certainly no passion for making a good C64 game at all. So the end result is an unplayable, nasty piece of shit that does no justice to anyone or anything, and you are ripping people off yet again. Spectrum version, from what I looked at, seemed actually okay in comparison, but it runs okay on a Spectrum. There's no surprise there. And according to the Wonderful Games That Weren't website, there were actually screenshots of an earlier C64 version that actually did look like a version that was made of the C64. And those were the screens that were in the early previews in Zap as well. And so it was obviously, there was a plan afoot at some point to create a better version of Karnov for the C64. For whatever reason, in the sort of blurb that's in the Games That Weren't, there is an interview with the people that made the game. And they basically put this down to time pressures from Activision, saying that they just said, no, scrap the version you're working on. We need it out quicker than that. Just get the Spectrum and do that. And they did. And I think that on the one hand, I feel kind of sorry for them that they were put under that kind of pressure. But on the other hand, you can just say no, however desperate you might be for the work. Your reputation's on the line. You're releasing this into the world. You can't give birth to this and then just abandon it and go, oh, I'm sorry, but we were made to make that. That isn't washing for me anymore. Apparently, they got as far as the level 1 graphics for the C64, and then they showed those in those screens to whet everyone's appetite before they then unleashed this massive shit on everybody. So this is a direct, rushed, bad port of a Spectrum game, of a game that wasn't really that great in an arcade anyway. I partly feel sorry for the team that worked on it in a way, because obviously I'm not privy to what kind of pressures you were under at that time. If you got mortgage and bills to pay, and this is your bread and butter, maybe it's just, you think, well, I don't want to do this, but if I don't make this game, if I don't get paid, I can't pay my mortgage, I can't pay my bills, and that ain't a nice position to be in. I guess there's a lot of that. But this is just awful. Even this game doesn't want to be. It doesn't want to happen. It don't want to be around. No, it's just horrible. The end result for this, it's a really bad thing. This, I don't know how it got 13%. Really, maybe because the graphics, I suppose, are Spectrum-ish, but they look kind of a bit like they're supposed to, I guess. But this was just tragic. What a crap thing this is. And I have no time. I had no time for it. I mean, no, just no. Don't do this. 1988. Come on, don't make games like this. What do you think?
Hello, and welcome to this special episode of Zapped to the Past. Normally, we look at games that were released for the Commodore 64, but in this special episode, we'll be looking at the Spectrum port of Data East Karnov. Not something we usually do, but hey, thought we'd do something different to the usual content we produce. So this is all the things you expect from a Spectrum game: single colour sprites, slow controls, terrible sound, colour clash, jittery scrolling, and nausea-inducing colours. Clearly a terrible conversion, so I can only hope that the C64 version is better when we eventually get it. You up? This is the C64 version. Okay. Burn it. Just burn it. Burn it. Destroy all knowledge of it and wipe it from existence. Who knew? The only good thing about this, who knew that in 1988 someone could write such a good Spectrum emulator on the C64? Who knew?
Yeah, I suppose it's one way of looking at it.
But quite incredible, really. As for the game, where's the sound of the baby crying when you need it? Because that's the only thing I can think of. I think this just needs to end with the baby crying, and the tumbleweeds and the woman crying and someone vomiting. This is awful. Yeah. I mean, this is genuinely awful. When I loaded this up and that Spectrum title screen, I went, okay. And then when the game started, I was like, it's a Spectrum game. And then obviously you just linked us to that Games That Weren't into you, and they were like, oh, well, we had to just port the Spectrum version. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Nobody did. Yes, whoever's involved in this, whoever made the decisions on whatever it was, like, no one was clamoring for Karnov, the arcade game. No one was banging on Boot's door going, where's Karnov? I've got to have Karnov. Nobody was doing it.
The people of Cremina needed him.
Cremina might have needed it, but nobody else did. And it's not like arcade games don't get released at the same time. I mean, the port of Grisor that we looked at last time was well late in comparison to other versions.
Yeah, true.
There's no reason for them going, oh, we just want it out. who cares a shit about Karnov that it's so rushed when you've already got that C64 version in production? Just go, yeah, okay, we'll take a bit more time, get that out. It don't matter. No one cares. No one's knocking the doors of, like I said, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Oh, I know, we've got to get it out. Why?
Yeah, does wonder.
Who is demanding this? That forces you out. It's not like today where, all versions of the game have to come out PC, Xbox One, Series X, PlayStation 5 all at the same time. And if there's not, there's hell to pay on the internet because the games, it's not like that. No one gave a shit back then. It's just like, oh, yeah, you got Karnov. We'd have looked at the Spectrum version anyway and gone, what's that rubbish? And maybe that was why sort of thing, because they thought, well, maybe if we put it out, put the Spectrum version out on its own, people will realise that it's rubbish and won't buy the C64 version. But then they could have saved themselves some money and not released it anyway.
It's sort of, even Shaolin's Road wasn't as bad as this, was it? And that was pretty bad.
Shaolin's Road wasn't as bad as this. Legend of Cage wasn't as bad as this. Numerous crappy things. It's even that really crappy Kung Fu one where you can just hold down left and whatever and beat him up. I'd prefer that to this.
Oh, that was bad as well. Yeah, true.
This was one of the worst things I've seen. God, that category is going to be tough this year.
It is packed, isn't it? It's packed, honestly.
It's packed.
Like they're fighting to get in. It's like we've opened some nightclub and everyone's trying to get there.
But nobody knows the way in. Everyone's going through the wrong entrance. None of them can order a drink because they're all so shit.
Exactly.
We're making no money from these idiots.
They want to get on the guest list. It's like, don't worry, you're free entry for you. Don't worry about that. You're coming in.
Yeah, VCPs, very crap programs. There we go. Anyway, there we go. That's Karnov. It's awful. We got warned about this by one of our. Oh, is it Dr. Goggles? Is it Dr. Goggles or Buzzit?
I can't remember. We'd have to look. But yeah, they were kind enough to warn us. Unfortunately, we didn't heed the warning, and I don't think we were warned enough. I didn't realise it was as bad as this because this is in the. I thought this was. I think they likened it to Cobra. I think they said, "Oh, this is Karnov's worse than Cobra," and I was thinking, is that possible? And it is. It actually is possible, and it really is
possible. Who knew? Who knew you could sub Cobra? Okay. Anyway, there we go. That's Karnov. Let's move on. Nobody's spoken about Karnov more than we have just said ever. Let's go to the next one. The next one. This is pro golf. There's nothing pro about this.
It's
nothing.
prof.
Everything about this is amateur. Everything. This is no golf. I'm just getting out there now. I'm doing it right at the start. No, just no golf. God's sake. This is from Atlantis Software. It's got 24%. It's $2.99. There's no credits for this that I could find. I could only find someone called John Watson who did the Spectrum version. I don't know if he did this version. Someone did, and they should think about what they did and feel bad. So this is budget golf on such a level that it could barely be called golf. Yes, it has the trappings of golf, but if I covered my living room in grass and swung at a pork pie with a table leg, would you call that golf? No. And this is just like that.
Yeah, I would. No, I wouldn't really.
Adrian's playing golf again. So my partner's like, what's he doing? Oh, he does that every now and again.
Got the strongest desire now to hit a pork pie with a golf club.
He gets
I want to see what happens now.
Breaks a table, just whacks it about with some fake grass in his living room. Well, it's got to be done. Anyway, no, it's not golf. It's just like that.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. Yeah. I mean, they even put 1988 on the bare title screen. You don't want to be telling people this is new. Put 1983 on it. Just lie. They might be a bit more sympathetic.
Yes.
Not much. They've still wasted £3 on this, but there might be a bit. Lemon 64 doesn't, even the new Lemon 64 doesn't even have this listed. There was no sign of it on there that I could find. I looked for everything, but I couldn't find it on there. It's on Moby Games, but not there. It's like it just slid off the web and died in a corner, which is what it should do. Anyway, Pro Golf. Here you can enjoy the splendour of Pebble Beach or Sunningdale, each in a separate load. You can have a championship, practice, or just a single round. You can choose medal tees or championship tees. I think that means it's just they place the tees in different places, isn't it? Where you tee off from.
Yes, I would imagine that's probably it.
Yeah, you can have up to 1 to 4 players. You can name them. You can choose random or wet. You can choose random. You can choose random ground or wet, normal, or dry ground. You can choose it yourself or choose a random one. You can have variable wind. Or set it and then you can enjoy the game, whatever. The game screen itself, so that's it, there's your options. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. The game screen is split into a series of windows. The largest of these is a satellite view of the whole. So yeah, you can see it all from about 3 miles up. So whoever thought that was a good idea, it's like, here's the entire hole. Okay. Your ball is flashing somewhere on this map of the course, and the green is represented by a big black circle somewhere. The info for the hole, so yards and par and everything, is in the top right. And at the bottom of the controls, everything in this is controlled with OP, return, and space. No joystick controls, no nothing, it's just OP, return, and space. So you pick your club with O and P and press return to select it. Then you set the direction of the shot in the most boring way possible by moving by moving aiming a diagonal line. So essentially what you've got is a square and you just move a line around it, the 360 degrees, like it's on a circle, and that's your that's where you're aiming. If you want to aim, so God help you if you want to aim 180 degrees, because you've got to hold down P or O and let it get there every bloody time. Takes forever. It's awful. Press return when you have it facing the way you want. Then select the power with O or P. So again, you increase or decrease. Once done, press return, and then are you sure? You're like, yes. You can then swing it with a tap of the space bar, and then you've got to tap it again at some arbitrary point when it's this little graphic of a sort of graphic guy sort of swinging his club and swinging it down. You've got to press it again, otherwise you'll hook, slice, pull, or push it, or whatever. I could never get it spot on. I don't know where you're supposed to press it. There's no graphic indicator. So, and no matter when I press space, it never seems to do it right. And then that's it, because you'll never hit it straight, ever. And then you can watch the ball fly off in some random direction. Who knows? It'll move somewhere. You'll land in the rough and get to the whole monotonous club direction and power selection all over it again and again and again. I never even made it to the green. I don't know.
Same.
I don't know. This is dreadful on all counts. It looks terrible with awful character graphic representation of the various elements of the course, trees, rough bunkers, etc. The animated character that swings the club is ugly. The sounds are awful. And the controls that make you repeat everything time and time again are clunky and unintuitive. I hated this so much I didn't even finish one hole. How this got 24% is beyond me. It's an awful clag of crap and another contender in our ever increasingly crowded shit game of the year award. No golf. No. This was awful. There was that one we looked at ages ago with, its own brand of physics, shall we say, that hole in one. That's leaderboard to this.
Yeah. True.
I don't understand why anybody would think this was a good idea to release this in 1988, and for £3. It's not even budget. It's it's premium budget. Utter crap. No, I'm saying nothing more about it. What did you think?
No, that was my first comment. No, I suppose. My first question was this basic? And then it changed to, was this basic? And then it changed to, this was basic. And then I went to, this was basic.
It's very basic, I'll give you that.
It felt like I'd stepped back in time. I think this was created in a world where leaderboard hadn't been invented, and then it slipped through some kind of wormhole.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you could play golf on a weird keyboardy BBC Micro at school in 1983 kind of way. On the other hand, this is the worst golf game I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
Someone made this. Someone made it. It's someone's passion. I don't want to bemoan their efforts. That's probably a great achievement for them in the world where leaderboard doesn't exist. I'm guessing golf doesn't exist there either. Looking at the, this has been made by someone that had golf described to them, and so so that's what they've done. It's made like a methodical step-by-step process. This is bullet point golf. So they did what they did. They made this. Maybe that was a real personal achievement for them. It's not very good, unfortunately. It's awful. And the reality is, even that effort that someone's made, someone sat there and went, I'm going to make this. And then they released it. But they shouldn't have released it, should they? No. Just because you make a thing doesn't mean others should, pay money for that thing.
Yeah.
No. You should give it to yourself.
Before.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making a golf game for yourself and that sense of achievement that comes with it. You've made it. Don't release that to other people to judge you by it because it's awful. No, it just makes me think you're a stupid idiot. And I didn't want to think like that. I didn't want that thought in my head. You put it there. You made this game. You made me think that by having to endure that nonsense. What awfulness. What awfulness. Procedural golf. Nobody ever wanted that. No, golf's I don't play golf in any way, shape or form. And for those that like it, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but I imagine it's a pretty funless thing. You hit a ball with a stick and, you've got to get it in a hole, which is yards away. Okay, fine. Maybe some people like that and that's okay. Fill your boots with it. But that isn't this. This is some kind of, selectatron. It's weird. There's nothing in this for me. This was weird. I didn't like it. Maybe it should have a place in 1983. Does not have a place in 1988. This was more like bloody Golf Harris to me. It's not something I ever want to go back to or talk about. So, no. No, thanks. No, I don't know how it got 24%. It's a bleeding miracle how it got that. It's just stupid. It should have got 0 or maybe 2 or 4, ironically. We could have given it an ironic score, couldn't we? 4?
4.
Not 24.
No,
yeah,
2
anyway,
and 4. Yeah.
This is not pro golf. It is not good. So,
no golf.
No.
No golf.
No golf.
There we go. That's it. 2 crackers there. Still got one more to get through. I don't know if it's a cracker. It could be. It's got high percent. Let's move on. Let's get out of that. Let's get out of that very rough patch and move into our next one. Graham, just to wrap up this part, tell us all about Infiltrator 2.
The next day, Infiltrator
the
2, the
next
next
day,
day, from US Gold, created by Chris Gray, music by Paul Butler. There's a long diatribe of dialogue. There's an extended storyline to this. It's a direct sequel to, obviously, Infiltrator. So here we go again. And I'm not going to. There is a really long story that you can read for this. It's it's written in proper story time. It rained all day and into the night. So far, nailing that jogger was a. And I'll put the link in the show notes. Go and read through the story, but it's essentially the same. It takes a while to get there, and takes a while to get to who's doing what and where. But the variation of the story and the theme of it all, it's all very interesting. It gets you to the exact same point at the end, which is where I'm going to start off. So I'm just going to assume, let's take the story as read, blah, 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 blah. So here we go again. You're stepping into the multi-talented shoes of Johnny McGibbets and taking on the Mad Leader, this time in 3 daring infiltration missions.
Ooh.
Well, exactly like it was last time. Was it 3 or was it 5 in the last one? Anyway.
I honestly can't remember.
Following a similar playstyle to the original, each mission has a chopper section and a ground infiltration section. Nice detail here is if you start the mission, you can start the missions from either part. So you can start, if you want to just start at the base where you infiltrate, you don't have to do the chopper part, which is actually quite good because, I don't know about you, I found that bit really boring.
What, the chopper bit?
I'll come back to that. Yeah.
It's just the same as the last game.
Yeah, well, ironically, I'll come back to that. The game starts in the typical fashion with a typical fashion for this Infiltrator series of games, with a kind of odd, quirky sense of humor to it. Mm-hmm. So it does have a tone of humor, which you can sort of get, but it's sort of, I don't know if you describe it as comic book humor. I don't quite know where the tonality of it lies, but you'll get the theme of that when you read through. And the game's a multi-load sort of game where it loads up different screens and different parts, and there's sort of, I wouldn't call them cutscenes as such, but there are just images with dialogue and things like that. So it's got kind of a story that presents itself. And that's quite interesting that it does it that kind of way. But it's exactly the way that Infiltrator did it. It's not doing anything different there. So this time, obviously, you've got to pilot the Gizmo DHX-2 attack helicopter to the designated coordinates. A combination of keyboard commands to lift off and to fly, and a joystick to fly, with a few more keyboard commands to use your computer terminal as you're flying, which I think is T, as I recall. To start, you had to B, and then I think it was S. And then the instructions, or the guide I had, it said to press 1, but it wasn't 1. It was a lie. I just went and pressed every key on the keyboard, and eventually my engine started and I was able to lift off, so quite handy. So, and then you got to get to a certain height before you can start to sort of move. I think it's 600 meters. Once you've reached the altitude, you can then control the helicopter and actually fly it, and then you press T to go to your computer terminal, get your coordinates for where you need to be aiming, and then you can fly, my pretties, fly to your coordinates.
Just fly.
On the routes, you'll get challenged. Just fly. You'll get challenged by enemy fighters and helicopters, and they will ask you for the special code. Who are you? What do you want? And you can use the term Overlord if they are enemies, and that will trick them. Trick them, it does. Or you can say Infiltrator if they're allies. But, you got to take the chance. What are they? Do you know? And depending on what you answer, you can mean combat or not. But basically played the same way as the previous Infiltrator game, pretty much exactly. So if you like the combat flight sim part of that, it's not too bad, I suppose. Reasonably good movement. I mean, I think it's still a bit of a jerky thing, but it's slightly faster than your average jerky game of that type. If you like it, you'll like that bit. If you liked it the first time, you're going to like that bit. Mm-hmm. So once you get to your target base, assuming that you'll land, and then it's to the next mission phase, exactly like it was in the first Infiltrator game. The view shifts here to a more isometric high view, which is exactly the same view that was in the first game. Your objective here is to infiltrate the Mad Leader's base, exactly as it was in the first game, and you are dressed as one of his men, which is also exactly what you were in the first game. I'm sensing no deviation from the plan. I would have thought the Mad Leader would have figured that out. He wouldn't try to infiltrate our base dressed as one of my soldiers a second time, would he? Well, he does.
Fool me once.
Once there, you must find an item that's in a key to the Mad Leader's plans. The items change for each of the missions. So there's 3 missions, so there's 3 different things you have to find. Mm-hmm. The route is tricky. Minefields, guards, and other buildings are all over, so you need to sneak about carefully, get too close to a guard, and your disguise could be blown. And that spells trouble for you, so you will get asked for your papers if you get caught. It's not going to end well if you do get caught, so you've just got to keep your distance from them. Be careful. You carry a small amount of knockout gas grenades, which you can use on them if you want to, but remember it only knocks them out, so they do wake up. And there's also a handy landmine detector, so you get the idea. You've got to sort of sneak around, try not to be seen. Do not be seen in this. You get inside a building, you can then sneak around and look for the item. You actually get a different view when you go inside a building. It's kind of obviously an overhead view, so it's all playable. There's lots of things to search, and it's quite tricky to avoid the guards in there. I found really hard. It's like they've got sixth sense for, and I'm never very good at these stealth games anyway, so it's like this is like the worst. One of my worst traits. I'm terrible at them. I always get caught. I remember playing that ninja game with you, and it was like the worst ninja in the world. I just leapt through a window and just landed them. Is it Tenshu Z?
Oh yeah, maybe.
I was playing, I think it was like a stealth ninja game. You showed me how to do it. You were like stealthily ninja in through the windows. I just leapt in through the window in the middle of it and was like, ha ha! Like, no, that's not the way ninjas work. So it wasn't very good anyway. So that was my approach in this. I was forever getting the guards challenging me. You can find extra grenades in there. There's even booze in there, which you can use, and you have for some reason, and you get security passes, which you use to access the secret labs, which is where you're going to find the interesting items of the Mad Leader. It's all very exciting. There's a simple inventory view on the screen for you and a map that gradually gets more complete in that section the more you explore. A successful infiltration means you run back to your waiting gizmo copter and fly back to base, and then it's onward to the next mission, and so it goes on. I liked the infiltration part more than the flight sim part, for me personally, but I wasn't wholly struck on any of these games, but that part I enjoyed a bit more than the other bit. And there's a bunch of nice graphic details, I thought, but they're exactly as they were in the first game. They vary in quality as well in the same way the first game did. It's the same as the first game, same problems and everything. We said that in the review of the first game that the graphics seem to get less defined and scrappy as it went on, which is exactly true here as well. Same thing happens again. Only the starting point for the games is actually pretty naff to begin with here. So it's the same problem, but you don't have the added expectation of it being the first game that's done it because it's the second one. So you'd think that they would have maybe made good on some of those things, but no. So I'm not 100% sure what this is adding to the whole Infiltrator sort of license. I mean, it literally could have been made the next day because it's the same game. It felt exactly the same as the first one. I think if you sat them side by side and said to somebody which one's infiltrating, which one's infiltrating the next day, I don't think you'd genuinely at times you'd know. There's no prevailing thing apart from the opening credits that tells you it's a different game. They're playing exactly the same way.
Yep.
So it felt the same. There's so little differences. I think you could easily be playing the first game. The Zapped reviewers all said the same. They all said exactly that it just feels like it's the first one again. I mean, sometimes it gets a bit funny. And I suppose for those that like the first game, there's probably just more of the same, which maybe is what you like, and I get that. If you like the first game and you want 3 more levels, well, there they are. No, this is like a DLC, really.
Yes.
But what is this game really doing that the first game didn't? But if you'd never played the first game, you'd probably like this. And if you have, well, maybe you'd like it. It's just not my cup of tea, all this. I didn't really get on with the first one. And I have exactly the same issue with the second one. It's just more of the same. What's the difference? Well, I'll tell you what the key difference is. You paid an extra 10 quid for this one. So that's the difference. What did you think?
Same. Exactly the same. It's just the first game. And it's just the first game. It's just the first game. But hey, I'm sure that a lot of this is just listed wholesale from the first game. I would just advise you to go back and listen to what we said in episode 32 about this being the Rambo game that never was. I went back and listened to what we said about it, and we said, it feels like the Rambo game. True. And now it's just repackaged with a new name. It's also not the next day, according to the story. It's in the story in the game.
Yeah, I don't know why they've called it that. I'm thinking that's when it was made.
It's because he did something to, I don't know. Flying to the mission was a protracted control sequence of button presses and death from random planes that would fly by me. That's what I found. It's too hard again. It's still too hard. As much as I want to like this game, upon revisiting it, I realised I like the idea that that will be done much better by later versions of this kind of infiltrate and stealth mechanics than what is offered here. This is a blueprint for something that, the games that will come along and do it a lot better. But as it is,
it is.
There's some impressive tech. It's all hangs together very well in its thing, but it's the first game again. It's quite cheeky. I don't know. I didn't really notice much difference. I mean, that opening sequence, it's even the same shot of the helicopter before you take off.
Yes,
there's no
it is.
difference. Just not much fun to play. Like I said, it's too hard as well. It's too awkward. It's too many button presses. I've got to scrub this and do that and get this ATM. It's like, just point. You know what you have on the, in most things, you have a compass. Just give me a compass direction. I shouldn't have to put in coordinates to something and head it that way. Just tell me, it's to the northwest. All right, I'll head northwest. That's it. You don't need this clever crap. Mankind's been making its way around the world with just a compass for centuries. But, now we've got these spangled things and planes just turn up and go, die, scum, and you're dead. Nah, this wasn't for me. I didn't. The first time you play it, you're kind of like, it's quite an interesting take. And then the second time you play it, you're like, you just released the same game. Stop doing this. Nah, it's Infiltrator 2 the next. I think you're right. If this was now, this would just be DLC. This would just be some extra content. But I don't know what's different about it. No, not for me. There we go. Well, that's it started off well that part, but soon went to crap. And then maybe pulled up a little at the end, but torturous week. A torturous week. Let's not say no more about that lot of games. We'll take a break. Should we take a break? I think we need a break.
I think we have to.
Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment after this, where we will be talking about TV and film, cinema stuff from July 1988. So see you in a bit.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige bread bin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we're back. Let's see if there's some good stuff going on. I mean, we clearly weren't playing a lot of games this month. Was there much crop on telly or cinema? Let's have a look.
Well.
You can tell this is summer. 1st of July, the Australian series The Flying Doctors makes UK debut on BBC One. Initially aired on Fridays at 8:10 p.m. From 20th of August, it is moved to a Saturday early evening slot.
8:10 is a weird time. On the BBC, that's crazy, isn't it? On a
That's
Friday.
casualty time.
It is casualty. Causality. You got to call its proper name. Causality.
Causality, yeah. That's causality time.
It is. It actually is. Yeah, it is. This would predate that, wouldn't it? This was the first one. Holby City. Is it Holby City?
No,
First?
No, causality's first.
You're right. Yeah, causality's first, and then Holby Shitty came second.
You can't have causality then effect.
God love a bit of causality, me. How are they setting these things up? They precariously balanced a boiling hot vat of acid on top of a shelf over an infant. What could go wrong? Do 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 do.
Here, Charlie.
Charlie Fairhead. So Flying Doctors. I guess it's not on your watch list. That one.
I remember it, but I don't. I think I'm getting this confused with Doctors, that crappy daytime soap that's on. But Flying Doctors, I vaguely remember this. I don't remember it being on at prime time Friday night and Saturday night.
I guess there's not a great deal more you can make soap operas out of in Australia because
sheep.
Other than the expanse of land, which is why they have Flying Doctors. So that's that.
Yeah.
You got, and I made a note of some of the other Aussie shows that I could remember that were just because there was the great Aussie takedown, wasn't there? All of a sudden,
anything they produced, we wanted.
Yeah, no, it's just that if somebody at a certain point in time in the 80s, if somebody farted in Australia, it was made into a TV show. We had it on TV in Britain because Australians were all considered really hilarious and funny. They were,
yeah.
And I mean, no disrespect to anyone Australian, obviously, but we just ended up with loads of TV shows from Australia. I've got here A Country Practice. We had that.
Yeah.
Sons and Daughters,
which you have to sing the theme tune to. Sons and daughters. Love and laughter, tears and sadness for everyone. I thought it was happiness.
Yeah, tears, sadness, and happiness. We will find
out. Sons and daughters are what we two were once about, or something like that.
That's it. Something like that. That's right. God, that's weird. How did Country Practice go?
I can't remember Country Practice. I don't know. Sons and Daughters had. I used to come home to it because it was just on as you were coming home from school. So I'd always hear that theme tune.
There was so Sons and Daughters. We know Neighbours, of course. Neighbours. Everybody, we know that one. Row. Home and Away. Let me be the one that you turn to. Someone you can rely on. Closer each day.
Oh yeah. Home and Away.
And then there's Prisoner Cell Block H. He used to give me roses. I wish he would again. That's Gary's theme song, actually, to be fair.
He has a band walking behind him. He's singing that.
He does. On the inside, the roses grow. That's honestly Gary's theme song. The Flying Doctors, of course, which is the one we're talking about. I have no idea how that goes. I'm just, could make it up, I suppose. The Flying Doctors, diddle diddle diddle. They fly about and cure stuff. I don't know. And then there's the Young Doctors, which is the other one. So I don't know if some of these shows. What did they do? Well, the Flying Doctors, they were too young to fly, I guess.
Too young to be doctors. They're just a lot of kids.
So, yes. So, I don't know what the Young Doctors was about. I'm guessing doctors that were young. I do remember it because I think some of these were daytime.
How
some
young,
of them
though?
were not daytime.
What classes you as a young doctor?
I don't know. I could Wikipedia them or something. I'm not going to.
No.
Googling young doctors is probably a bad move.
Safe search on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're going to be triggering some kind of, it's just even with an innocent search, there's not so much the returns. It's the endless spam you're going to get from doctor services. You're just going to get endless adverts going, you need a doctor. Well, here's some private doctors. No, I don't. So, but I don't know what all of those were about, but that was and then they all disappeared, didn't they? One by one, they just went off, dip, gone. No more Australian TV shows. I mean, Neighbours is now finally finished as well, so I think that's it. Is it? Is there any left?
It is. I think is Home and Away still running on Channel 5?
That may be the last one, I think, because obviously Sons and Daughters has gone. Country Practice has finished. Neighbours they've all moved away. Prison Cell Block H, they've all got released. The Flying Doctors have, they've all grown too old to fly, and the Young Doctors are now too old, so they've all retired. So I don't know. Weird.
Here we go. Australian influx of TV. Also from across the water, 4th of July, Miami Vice returns to BBC One after 10 months. However, due to controversies over violence and drug use in a show called Miami Vice about violent policemen, several of the episodes are not shown on the BBC, including one featuring a sympathetic IRA member played by Liam Neeson and another which sees the death of a key character, Larry Zito, played by John Deal. They were so weird. I mean, we'll come to the point about the violence, but they were so weird about the IRA back then and any kind of representation of them, weren't they?
Yes, they were. I mean, absolutely.
There's that great bit in, what is it? Is it in Brass Eye or Day to Day where they get Alan Partridge? You made me dress up like this. I've got to switch.
Yes, that's the Day to Day. Yeah, that is.
I find your tone very antagonistic. Because they just make him talk like inhaling helium, don't they? So it lessens the impact of his words.
No, well, it was they passed that law, by the way, in October 1988. So they banned the voice, the broadcast of the voice of IRA members on TV and radio in the UK. So they literally banned it. So when they showed them, we call them members of the IRA. It was let's just say a political party, and then obviously there was all sorts of troubles around at the time. But at the same time, their legitimate voice was then dubbed over it. It was really weird to even think that would happen in the UK. I mean, that's the actions of the sort of state that we now look at and go, you can't do that, but it's that happened in our own country. It's weird.
I mean, I get it. I mean, the bombings and everything and all the kind of stuff that was going on. I'm not condoning any of this. It was such a strange time to be living that this kind of stuff was just that's what it was.
Can't imagine it.
Anyway, back to Miami Vice.
So yeah, Miami Vice. Why worry about violence and drug use in a show that's based around drug use and violence? Seems odd to me.
Why show it?
Yeah, well, that's the daft thing, show it and then worry about the controversies. I just think it's funny how they just think. To think of it now as it being controversial because it just had that on it. I mean, goodness me. Yeah. Compared to some of the shows there's been now, it's crazy. But at that time, the UK was still in the grip of the National Viewers and Listeners Association, which was headed by a do-good granny, now thankfully, actually I won't say it that way, now sadly dead, a lady called Mary Whitehouse, who took it upon herself to send essentially endless letters to the BBC and other broadcasters complaining bitterly about everything that was she deemed violent or sexual or anything that was on TV. And there's an interesting archive, which I'll post in the show notes, which is a highlight of some of the headline letters that she sent to some of the broadcasters. And this was specific stuff. At 8:32 on this particular show, on this particular day, the word shit was used 6 times. And it's as detailed as that about almost every show you can think of. And she rallied lots of people to that cause.
She did.
In the end, of course, that she was massively successful in some ways because there was a period, which seems crazy to think of now, but there was a period, wasn't there, when loads of movies were dubbed, the swearing was dubbed out of them, or entire scenes cut all together.
Yeah.
You don't see it so much now, apart from some of the sort of odd channels. Yeah, but that was her and the power that the national viewers and listeners actually had at that time.
Crazy.
But because they had sort of parliamentary backing a little bit. They had an ear in Parliament at the time. And her remit, her main argument behind all of this was that the BBC was meant to be a broadcaster for everybody. It was the people's broadcaster, the public service broadcasting. So they shouldn't be broadcasting things like that. They should be broadcasting things that are for the great and the good and all of that. And no, none of this Miami Vice business. And for a while they listened, and then they went, hang on a minute, we're not doing that anymore. Death, murder, and more death.
Yeah, absolutely. She was right about Gary, though, as we well know.
Yes. She once quoted as saying that Gary was a sick child. And she was bloody right.
She was right.
She was right. She were right about that, she were.
Gary Wilson is a sick child, Mary Whitehouse.
Yeah, I've still got that somewhere written on the paper. She wrote it on.
She did. She came past the house and just took one look at him and wrote it and then left.
She
said,
did.
He should be banned.
Yeah, she screamed. A scream I'll never forget. And then she wrote that down on a piece of paper and then ran, and tears streaming down her face.
As fast as her tan tights could take her.
Yes. We try not to think of that now.
No, 17th of July, after 1,576 episodes, Farming is broadcast on BBC One for the final time. It is replaced the following week by Countryfile, whose brief was to look at issues reflecting all aspects of the countryside, rather than just focusing on farming. Those farmers have had it too good for too bloody long, and I want to talk about the hedgehogs and all that crap.
It did make me laugh when I read this.
You farmers, stop hogging the bloody limelight.
You've had over 1,500 episodes to talk about your boring farm shit. Now let's talk about the countryside some more.
What's new? What's new? You've had 1,500 episodes.
Yeah, aren't the issues of the countryside more or less the same as farming?
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about this week in Countryfile? Farming. Oh.
Well, that's what they do. John Craven's been on that show forever. It's like I'm not sure if it's him or it's a fungus version of him.
Well, it's the ever living. It's the ever living. He's a cordyceps.
John Craven, the ever living. he is a cordyceps. It seems like the show has been rambling on and on, forever. But seriously, in all seriousness, the state of UK hedgerows and the iconic stone walls is important, as is the lifespan of the average UK badger. So thank the Lord for Countryfile, because where would we be without it? Where would we be? Honestly, we wouldn't.
I don't know. Well, John Craven wouldn't have a job.
Well, it's always the same show.
They've just been on repeat. Nobody's noticed because its viewing figures are too.
It can only be the same. It starts off Countryfile. He's sat by a stone wall and goes, on today's show, we're going to talk about the different qualities of grass, the age of that badger over there, and anything else I can see from where I'm sat because I'm too tired to walk.
This week, it's a fox.
This week on Tractor Watch.
And who else was there? Because it'd be Chris Packham turn up on it. Would he be in it these days?
He's like a young and funky version of John Craven, isn't he? He's like the Cravenite.
He's not young anymore. But I suppose he's young in comparison to John Craven. Isn't John Craven dead? Is he?
Either he's dead or he's a Vulcan. I'm not sure which. I don't know how long ago he went through Pon Farr, but it's probably quite a while ago, I'd have thought.
Probably was. Him and Shep. Shep's a dog.
No, dear. Poor old John Craven. He was on Newsround for years. He was old on Newsround. And then he's still on Countryfile because it's still on this. It's on every week, isn't it? It's on every Sunday. Still there.
And he did did he do? No, he didn't do. Did he do Screen Test? No, can't remember.
No, I think he was just Newsround. But I think
Newsround.
It must be the cheapest program the BBC make. It must be. Because they essentially just put a camera in a field. And that's it. What we're talking about, everything that's in this field.
Watch out for badgers.
Okay.
How old's that badger?
Exactly. Watch out for badgers. So, watch out for badgers. Oh, shit, we've got 29 minutes more. What we're going to talk about?
These flowers, what are they? Not flower. Oh. Anyway.
Tractor wheels, tractor tyres, anyone? Anyway, back on the farm.
Yeah, should we just go back to farming? There's stuff happening there.
Yeah.
Nothing happens in the countryside.
They'll be like, once it reaches like the 17,000th episode of Countryfile, the farming will make a comeback. It'll be like, we're back. No, we're coming back. We've now got stuff to talk about. You've had your chance.
One day they'll be filming and just cameras will be rolled over by tractors and combine harvesters, and there'll be the great massacre of Countryfile and just blood and gore everywhere. And just in the background, there'll just be a badger watching.
John Craven can just, he could switch into Android mode at any moment and just take a tractor down with his bare hands.
Well, he's ever living.
With him. He is ever powerful.
Ever living. 19th of July, there's the debut of the UK version of the game show Wheel of Fortune on ITV, presented by Nikki Campbell with Angela Eckett. I don't know how you say that. Ekaette. I don't know how to pronounce that. Kate.
Up your alley, isn't it? Up your alley, that one. You like the game shows. I don't like game shows, really.
I was never a big fan of Wheel of Fortune. There's something about it. I don't know. Because obviously it came from the US show, wasn't it? And you had to just guess the word. Yeah, you revealed letters and had to guess the phrase or something. It was all right.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of my favourites. I don't think Nicky Campbell's a particularly good host. It's all about the host. You have a good host. You got to have a good pun host. That's why I was a big fan of Bob Monkhouse shows.
Yeah, and there's some really good pun versions of that as well on YouTube where the word spells out because they've got certain letters missing. It looks really rude until they put the letters in. You're like,
yeah.
Okay. So you can YouTube that.
YouTube the electro scandal. Sometime in July, Stephen Barden is appointed as TVAMs. This is great, isn't it? It's like this ongoing saga of TVAM. And having done the agenda for August, there's more TVAM stuff coming.
Oh, God, they were always in fighting somebody, weren't they?
Stephen Barden is appointed as TVAM's new managing editor. With the station facing criticism from the IBA over the quality of its output, he acts quickly to improve matters. Repeats of imported US programs finally come to an end, or they're shown properly, while new programming is launched, and programs such as Frost on Sunday, off air since the strike began, are restored. Now, you may think that's actually David Frost, but it's just whenever it's just a shot of a cold car in the morning. Someone trying to start it.
Yeah, just pouring hot water over there.
Got
to defrost me car.
With a credit card.
It's terrible. No, I mean, aside from that version of Frost on Sunday, I've never seen David Frost on Sunday ever. I don't think I ever watched. It was never my thing.
He never come around your house. He was round ours all the time.
Never. I mean, hello, good evening. It's that guy, isn't it? I never
really steal all the gravy at lunch.
Really man that he was.
He was.
No, I didn't. But I was worried that this explains why all those US import shows that we came to watch the first 6 episodes of just got taken off the air immediately. So you're like, never going to see the end of that now.
Well, you probably did. You just never saw the beginning. Who knows what order they were shown in?
Yeah, true. Yeah, because remember they showed some episodes actually backwards. So God knows what Flipper was backwards, wasn't it, at one point?
Yeah. New shows for the month. 6th of July, we had something called Kelly Vision.
Very difficult to find anything out about that.
Yeah, what was this? It wasn't a huge favourite,
Something to do, it's a Time Tease show and something to do with somebody called Chris Kelly. So.
Okay. Did he do Clapperboard? Potentially.
I've got his talent profile and we'll put it in the show notes so you can check what you know about Chris Kelly. I didn't know anything about I'd sort of recognised his name, but I got him mixed up with that other Kelly, the big tall one off
hang on a minute. Yeah, he did Clapperboard,
eyes.
Programme presenter who went on to front popular children's TV shows such as Clapperboard. There you go. Dug that one out of the memory banks.
Yeah, but don't help you because you don't know what Kellyvision is.
I have no idea, but I'm going to say, obviously, because it was all about TV, wasn't it? He was kind of that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if it's obviously, maybe it was just him watching telly.
It can't be a coincidence that they take all the US imports off and then you end up with a program called Kellyvision, which is just Chris Kelly doing stuff.
To his telly, which is broken.
I would defer back to my notion that they replaced all the US imports with homegrown crap. And there's perfect evidence of it.
Probably. Only ran for a year anyway. 26th of July, there was I Can Do That, which ran from 1988 to 1991. Don't remember this at all.
Yeah, it was produced by Yorkshire TV and aired for 4 series on ITV's CITV from 1988 till 1991. The original host was Simon O'Brien, who for the final series was replaced by Bruno Brooks.
Simon O'Brien, isn't he Damon from Brookside?
No idea. Again, that's something you'd need to... I didn't watch Brookside and I never will.
You don't know what you're missing out on. In film, if you weren't happy watching all that at home, and why would you not be? You could go to the cinema on the 1st of July. You could watch Shoot to Kill, or as we knew it over here in the UK, it was Deadly Pursuit. So this is Sidney Poitier, isn't it?
Yes, Poitier? It is. Yes,
Sidney Poitier and Tom Berenger, yeah. Now, I've always said there's a weird thing about this film, which people don't understand, but this film starts at the start and ends at the end. Now, I know that sounds really obvious, but there's no preamble to it. It basically, as soon as this film starts, the main story gets going. It gets going straight into the chase, and then it ends right at the very end of the chase. There's no... like in most films, you get introduced to the characters and and then the plot starts about 5-10 minutes in. This doesn't. It's just like, bang, straight in. It starts immediately. Okay. It's quite good. It is actually quite good, this film. I do remember enjoying this. Roger Spottiswoode was directed, didn't he? 48 Hours, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
Air America, a few others. Yeah, he's got quite a good history of films, Roger Spottiswoode.
Yeah, and Sidney Poitier is always watchable. A great actor he was.
Oh, very much so, yeah. But Roger Spottiswoode is a silly name.
Roger Spottiswoode.
It's Edward Woodward and Roger Spotty's Woody. In this, that's why they can never be in the same space. It's not
Because he
possible.
spots his Woody.
Yeah,
He spots Edward Woody.
exactly. You can't have those two in the same space. It's grammatically impossible.
Yeah, and he's really good at when they play around the kids' game. When they're playing with the Toy Story toys, and he can always, when they hide Woody, you can always find it.
Woody's Roundup. Yeah. Well, if they have all that wood in the same room, they get a grammaticon, which is a grammatic explosion, which can kill for 1,000 meters. So just avoid that altogether.
Yeah, Grammaticon. Okay. I don't know what that is, but I like it. I'm using that. I'm nicking that. No, it's Grammaticon. You can have that one I said earlier, and I'll have this one. Also, on 1st of July, if you didn't fancy going to Spottiswoode, you could have watched The Perfect Murder. I don't know anything about this.
No, it's Police Inspector Goatee lives a middle-class life in Bombay along with his wife Pratima. He has been employed with the Bombay police for many years. His wife is generally disgruntled and wants a better life. He is assigned to investigate the deadly assault on a Parsi man named Perfect, who is the secretary of Lala Hiralal, a wealthy man with underworld links. So make of that what you will. I'd never seen it before, never heard of it.
No, I hadn't. Stellan Skarsgård's in it, though.
Yeah, it looked intriguing enough, but it completely missed me. So
No, it was. Did you ever see it on
most of these did actually.
Yeah, did you ever see that on the shelves of Blockbuster?
It didn't ring a bell. And let me have a quick look at the cover. No, it's not one I'd ever seen in the Blockbuster. It's not in that version of the cover anyway.
No.
So.
15th of July, you could have gone and watched Police Academy 5, Assignment Miami Beach.
Ugh.
Now, I'm going to say here, this is where it was 4 where I tuned out. So I don't actually know if I've ever watched 5 because 4 was so bad.
Yeah, you'd know if you'd watched 5 because 5's the worst one of them all. It's categorically the worst one.
It's awful. I mean, 4 was awful. I mean, they've all gone. Who's left by this point? Who's in it? What characters have we got left?
Well, the characters that you know are going to be in it are in it. So Lazard's in it.
Yeah, who else?
And I think it's got this one. It's a return of the same sergeant from the first one. So it's not Mauser in this one. It's
So we've got
what's his name?
Hightower, Tacklebury, Jones, Callahan, Hooks,
sound effects guys in it.
Proctor,
Yeah.
Harris, Lassard.
Yeah, Harris, that's it. Sergeant Harris, yeah.
Reddy Auberjonois in it as well.
Yeah, it's just not very good. It's not very... The jokes in it are, by this point, it's so toned down that it's borderline Scooby-Doo humour. It's like, it really is that bad. It's so lame.
Yeah. What's the plot behind it? Do you know? What is it about?
I think it's something to do with gangs on Miami Beach, I think, and I can't remember because I don't think there really is much of a plot to it. It's a police academy, so there's some kind of riot, and then each quirky character gets involved in some hijinks or something.
Hightower gets his gun out, Hooks shouts at somebody.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that.
Jones makes some noises.
A few silly bad shark jokes and surfboard humour and things, and
Probably.
periodically lots of scantily clad women on the beach kind of thing.
Yeah, but no boobs though. Boobs went out after number 1.
Exactly. It's holiday crimes in this, so
Holiday
that sort
crimes.
of stupid stuff. And I don't think in this one either there's any reference at all to the Blue Oyster or anything like that. It's all gone.
Okay, and so has obviously by this point Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah, and all the other actors that are in that make the first 1 and 2 okay.
Yeah,
Not
awful.
Good. Not good.
Also, 15th of July, you could have gone and watched Light of Day.
This was a curious thing. This.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, smoking. Oh, smoking Michael J. Fox.
Do you mean as in having a cigarette, or just that he's smoking?
Well, no, he's actually smoking the cigarette. He was a chain smoker, wasn't he, Michael J. Fox? He smoked heavily.
Oh, I've no idea.
But he didn't like people knowing that he smoked, so he tried to keep it under wraps. But he was quite a heavy smoker.
All right. Was he still doing, what was the American TV show that he was it all about family? Or
Yeah, something like that. Is it Family Ties?
Family Ties, that was it. Yeah, Family Ties.
Like
was he still doing that? So he still had a bit of a wholesome.
Yeah, it is that, and it's that Michael J. Fox's sort of face, but it's a bit more of a serious role in this. It's actually quite an interesting film about a rock band. This it's quite good from what I remember of it.
I don't think I've seen it.
But then at a certain point, I remembered that he leapt up and did a basketball dressed as a werewolf, and I'm thinking I'm getting it confused with another film. So,
yeah, Back to the
pretty
Future.
Sure that didn't happen in
Good
this.
Lord.
So it's just they're sort of merged into one that probably didn't happen.
I think that was the Secret of My Teen Wolf, but I could be wrong.
Something like that. But yeah, it's interesting enough if you like, these sort of guitar rock band type vibes and
Yeah,
songs
I guess.
and that.
Yeah. And finally, on the 22nd of July, if you wanted to force yourself to, you could have gone and watched The Couch Trip.
Oh, God, no.
Yes, this is I'm going to say a comedy. Burnt out shrink needs a temp. A charming escaped convict takes over his practice and radio show. So this is Dan Aykroyd. Is it Charles Grodin as well? Yeah, Charles Grodin, Walter Matthau. It's essentially somebody gets in charge of the, an insane asylum, isn't it? Or a mental health institution. And or one of the doctors, and it's, oh, isn't that funny? The patients are in charge kind of thing. Yeah. And it did make me think sort of thing. Did like you put here, post Ghostbusters Dan Aykroyd, did he do anything good?
I was trying to think of the same thing because I was thinking, what's he actually in? I mean, he's actually in. He's in 1941, the Spielberg movie, or 1940.
Yeah, well, that's early. That's about. That's what I mean.
But so he's in that, and he's sort of a little bit funny in that, and he's in Saturday Night Live a lot, and then there's all the films he's famous for, Ghostbusters, to some extent Ghostbusters 2, and of course Blues Brothers. But after Ghostbusters, and at this point, other than Spies Like Us and things, is he in Spies Like Us? I think, and stuff like that.
Yeah, he Spies Like Us. Yeah, but I mean that's.
I don't remember him being anything good. That's what I mean. But I don't remember him being very good in much of anything after that. I don't really remember him.
I'm trying to have a look. Let's have a look, see what he's done. So post Ghostbusters,
what did you do?
What have we got? Ghostbusters, Into the Night, Dragnet. He's all right in Dragnet actually. I don't mind Dragnet.
Okay, yeah.
So that was probably the funny. He Spies Like Us, Dragnet, because he plays the uptight whatever.
Yeah, because remember the dun.
Yeah, exactly. Couch Trip, Great Outdoors.
Yeah, crap. He's in Caddyshack 2 and he's crap.
Caddyshack 2. Ghostbusters 2 isn't very good.
No, he's not.
Trying to look. No, I can't. Sneakers is a good film, but not because of him. Coneheads, that was awful.
That was awful.
Tommy Boy, Canadian Bacon.
He's not the main one in Tommy Boy, but he's quite funny in it. But he's not as funny as Tommy Boy.
That's what I mean.
David Spade and that one was really good.
Yeah, and, I think he got by in his early career and probably Blues Brothers, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't know if he does a lot of writing and stuff like that, maybe. But anyway, yeah,
he probably does.
He's also It Came From Hollywood as well.
Yeah, but also don't forget, isn't he in Blues Brothers 2000?
Yep, which is not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's really not. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. Dan Aykroyd's a bit of a... He's a bit of a weirdo these days, isn't he?
And of course, he appears in the latest Ghostbusters movie, doesn't he? At the end there.
He does, yes. He does pop up in that.
Along with mute CG Egon.
CG Egon. That sounds like...
Yeah, mute CG... Have you seen the latest Ghostbusters?
I have, yeah. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, apart from the end when CG Egon appears. Muted, silent CG Egon.
Yeah, I didn't mind
it's sad, but he's mute.
He is mute.
Because they obviously didn't...
Ghosts can't talk. Except they can in... No, they don't talk. They squeal a lot, but I don't think they talk, do they? Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, who cares? It's ghosts.
It's Ghostbusters. It doesn't matter. Well, Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Absolutely. There you go. Couch Trip's not a particularly good film. Not
it is not.
Good month of TV or cinema, I have to say.
But then again, nobody's in, are they?
No, this was the time when you would actually go out
and do July,
stuff.
You're out.
You're out doing stuff. There you go. That's your TV and film. We've got 4 more games coming up. We're going to go take a quick break and we'll be back with them in a bit.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess, or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
And we are back with our last part of July 1988. It feels weird this being a 2-parter. I went, not had one for so long that it just feels
old
odd.
School. We've gone old school.
We have gone properly old school. And to carry on that old school mentality, I don't know how that links to this anyway, what shape or form. Graham, tell us all about being a Bionic Commando or Commandos. There's two of them, but there's only one. Why is it multiple? Why is this name plural?
Don't ask complicated
Pluralised.
questions.
Okay, tell us about Bionic Commandos.
So this is published by Go. Its
Oh.
copyright is Capcom because it's based off an old Capcom arcade. It was developed by Software Creations, coded by Stephen Rudy. Graphics are by Andrew R. Threlfall. He also did the title screen, and the musician here is the all-powerful Tim Folin.
He is.
So Bionic Commando, actually, no, it's Bionic Commandos, but the Bionic Commando, the game, was released in Japan as top secret, interesting enough. It's a run-and-gun platform game released by Capcom in arcades in 1987. It was designed by Takuro Fujiwara as a successor to his earlier wire action platformer Rock and Rope in 1983, building on a grappling hook mechanic. He was also the designer of Commando. Makes sort of sense when I think of it. In fact, the game was advertised in the United States as a sequel to Commando, going as far as to refer to the game's main character as Super Joe, the protagonist of Commando. Did you know that? I didn't know he was called Super Joe.
Super Joe?
Yeah, in the promotional brochure, who was originally an unarmed member of a special commando unit in the Japanese and international versions.
Weird.
The protagonist is a commando equipped with a bionic arm featuring a grappling gun, allowing him to pull himself forward or swing from the ceiling. Despite being a platform game, the player cannot jump to cross gaps or climb ledges. The hero must use the bionic arm. So that's essentially the arcade and the little bit of a backstory there. In the Commodore 64 version, the scenario is as follows. It may have been 10 years, but the oppression and devastation continues. The alien forces that allied waste to our beautiful world have all but decimated our civilization. Now, for the first time in so many years, comes our chance for glory again. The Bionic Commandos. This elite fighting force is each equipped with a bionic arm.
Okay.
So you're one of the bionic arm with which they can climb and swing from platform to platform by extending their arm and grabbing and suitable objects above them. Their arm is also useful for catching provisions and extra weapons parachuted into the combat zone as a weapon. The bionic arm delivers an awesome blow to any enemy soldiers he comes to grip with. After battling his way through the alien base complex, the commander must destroy the launch computer, thus preventing the aliens from using their doomsday weapon. There are, in the Commodore 64 version, 5 stages. The stages are the Dying Forest, the Castle, Infiltration, the Control Tower, and the Silo. Each one of those represents a similar challenge in that you've got to kind of navigate you through using your bionic arm, grabbing different weapons along the way, shooting at things, and generally trying to get and destroy the objects or find the killer thing at the end to progress on to the next level. And normally those things are up and to the right, in my estimation of this game. Up and to the right.
That's right.
So I'll talk about how the game looks and everything else, but firstly, the music in the Commodore 64 version is amazing. It's better than the arcade. I had a look at the arcade. It's the same as the arcade, but the music is genuinely brilliant for this. Just tonally, I think, just the use of sounds. I mean, it may not be the greatest piece of composition, but the sounds in this are genuinely, they sit and when you hear them, they're different. It's very clanky, it's very clonky, it's very plonky. It's what it isn't is some derivative, boring tune. It's very odd, and that's the arcade. It's the same as the arcade sounds, and that's in-game. All the music is the same as the arcade. So the game is a multi-directional scrolling grab-em-up as you try and navigate your Bionic Commando and his grappling arm through 5 difficult levels. There is no jumping in this game, as I've said. To climb the levels, you must shoot at your grappling arm and fling towards them. Your way is thwarted by enemies that will drop on you and also have grappling arms occasionally to chase you about. They will also shoot at you, annoyingly. The path through and up the level is also blocked by obstacles, some of which you can shoot out, some of which you need to work your way around. There are also drops which you must not fall into. Do that or fall foul of the enemy and you will lose one of your 3 lives. Around the level, you will also see extra weapons, crate drops, and mini medals for bonuses. You control everything here with the joystick. Direction moves your commando. Fire and direction fires your grappling hook upwards or directionally upwards. Oddly, unless I was doing it wrong, and maybe you'd found it, I couldn't fire directly horizontally in the C64 version. I couldn't do that, which is really weird, because you can do that on every other version but the C64
No, all I can
version.
do is just shoot.
Yep. And you can even do that in the arcade. In fact, in the arcade, it's part of the key game mechanics, because you can shoot and grab some of the items off. So the weapons, extra weapons and crates, you can grab them with your claw, which you can't do in the C64 version.
Yeah.
Which is really strange, because you can in the crappier C64 version, which we'll also talk about. So instead, in this one, you just fire your weapon. When you grab a ledge, you don't automatically fly onto the top, which is a nice feature in this, because sometimes you just need to wait, because if you happen to jump up and there's a person there, you're going to die straight away. So you do get a little bit of player affordance. So you don't have to just leap around and land right on the top of the platforms. You can sort of hang about if you like. And sometimes you'll need to do that. But if you do die and you're sad enough to do that, you will parachute back in, which you can sort of control so that you can land back on a ledge again. So that's how the sort of game replays. The main window of the game is the play area with a UI at the top displaying your score, remaining time, remaining lives, and current weapon. Under that is the medium res game area with decent backgrounds, details, and platforms you must navigate. Your player controls reasonably well, and the grappling and flying about works okay. Indeed, there is mostly everything here bar the fiddly and longer levels from the arcade. And the main sprite is okay, but it follows the kind of Ghosts and Goblins, which I think this game owes a hell of a lot to, actually. But mixed with a sort of commando type vibe. There's quite a few enemies on screen and only occasional bugs from the multiplexer in here. So again, it felt a little bit in the first level like the second level of Ghosts and Goblins. It's very similar to that.
Yeah. And
of course, the in-game music is exactly the same as the arcade, and also quite nice to play along to. There is some sound effects you want those as well, or instead of. I found that it's quite a nice package altogether, and pretty difficult, this game. You're probably not going to be at this for a while, or should I say you probably are going to be at it for a while, but are you going to play it for longevity? I don't know. But I'm not a massive fan of the Bionic Commando arcade. I couldn't honestly tell you maybe a handful of times I've ever seen it. I think they've got one in the arcade club. In fact, I'm pretty sure they have. But I did play the C64 version a fair bit back in the day, because I actually, for some reason, I quite liked it. I don't quite know why, really. I think there is a sense of swing about freedom to it in a way that just kind of work. And I think because I quite like Ghosts and Goblins, I think there's echoes of it, and it sort of appealed to me those levels. But they are very samey as you progress through the game, and the difficulty is ramped up beyond belief. So I remembered it more fondly than I actually came to see it this time around. It was a bit blockier than I remembered it. The graphics are nice and green. It looks jungly. The graphics, I think, are quite nicely done in the way that they are. And the scrolling is a little on the slow side, but it is okay. Certainly better than Karnov in that respect. And it is all helped by the really interesting tones and clanks and sound effects, which are filtered to sound very different. This doesn't sound like your average C64 game, which is important, I think. So it's not a bad conversion, actually, as it goes. I think it's got enough of the arcade and enough of the playability to be entertaining. I just don't know that was ever really that much to begin with. So I think it's a fairly average to interesting arcade as made for an average to interesting game. This is multi-load as well. And I enjoyed what I played. Of it. It was nice to go back. It's a fairly straightforward It's not a steep learning curve to the game. The controls do work as you expect, apart from that weird side grab, which you can't do. No idea why. So I thought the UK version, it was all right. I don't know that 90% was a bit high. I'd have put it more around the 70s. It's about 70% for it. It's in the same realm as Commando, actually, in that same sort of, and Ghosts and Goblins as arcade conversions. It's not horrible or terrible. It's just an 8-bit version of something that's kind of average anyway. So it was all right, with the exception of the music, which I particularly find quite interesting. There is a final nod in all of this to the weird and crappy US version of this, which I loaded up. So there is a US specific version. I don't quite know what happened with that. Something went badly wrong. The end result had loads of issues. It had a naff title screen. There was no music to speak of as such, but on the title screen in the game music, it was a version of the arcade, but horrible. The sprites had weirdly large heads, which was dead strange. You could shoot your claw out horizontally, which you can't do in the UK version, but everything ran slow and there was basically nothing there. It was awful, really bad. So what happened there, I don't know. I think it looked to me like it was unfinished. But it wasn't a patch on the UK version. The UK version was far more accomplished. I just don't know that it's not a great game. And I think it just belies it's all right in the same way that it's like Flying Commando, really, I suppose, or Bionic Commando is exactly what it is. It's a commando game with you flying around on trees. So I enjoyed what I played of it, and the music is really good. But what about you? Yeah,
it's a solid conversion, I guess, of the Capcom arcade game by the people who did Bubble Bobble, innit? It's helped in no small measure by the odd and bizarre series of tunes from Tim Follin. I think you're more of a fan of them than I am. I think they're okay. And I don't know, they're okay. They're unusual. They're clanky. It's okay. It's a little annoying in places, and I think that's partly due to the level design. Quite often I would find myself having to do sort of drops of faith because I couldn't see if there was anything beneath me, and I didn't know. You can't fire your grappling hook downwards, can you? So
No,
So
you can't.
you kind of
there are
on a-
spaces where you
on
just
a
fall
branch.
into the void.
Yeah, on a branch, and you're like, and then I did actually drop into the void at one point, and then it just kept spawning me above the void, and I couldn't get out of it. So I was like,
You can. Well, your parachute. You can move your parachute.
you can move
And
your
if
parachute, but I was in the middle, and you can only move it a certain amount. I found. And
Yeah,
it
no.
wouldn't-
But if your parachute goes to the bottom, it comes back at the top. You don't lose a life.
Oh, maybe I wasn't losing a life then. I don't know, but I couldn't. It was quite annoying. I don't know. Anyway, I fell into a void, and I don't like having to make falls of faith or drops of faith or jumps of faith, leaps of faith, whatever. I need to be able to see that there's something beneath me. So I found that a bit annoying. I don't know if it's this like the arcade version. I have no recollection of seeing the arcade version anywhere. So I watched a YouTube version of it, and I guess it's the weird thing. What this has done is it's made that we saw this in something else. I think it was Wonder Boy, where they've made the background black.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cheap shot to do that, but I can see why they did it.
The arcade version is really colourful. It's like a skybox and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have just done it blue or something just to make it a bit more colourful. But it means it feels like you're playing at night. So I don't know. It just feels
In that jungle level, the later levels have got a bit more variety. But
yeah, they have. But the first level, the other one we did, Rastan did it as well, I think.
Yeah, it is a bit of a cheap shot in it to do
So it's
that,
like
really.
I guess it's memory reasons, I guess, but just make it blue.
Yeah.
At least it's the sky then.
Yeah, well, I suppose if it's black, it's no colour, is it? So maybe it doesn't cost anything in terms of
Maybe, I don't know.
one of your colours, I guess, is.
Anyway, it's pretty. I mean, this is pretty good. It's like you said, it's a darn sight better than that atrocious American version. Gads, what went on there?
Something went wrong there.
American versions are not always the worst. I think we preferred the 720 American version, didn't we? I think that was a bit. I don't know whether there was something there, but this one in comparison is a travesty. It's a nightmare. Like you said, it's unfinished. But this is okay. I think 90% is too high as well. I don't think it's worth the plaudits that are ladled there. It's a 70 to 80 for me. It's competent and it plays okay, but I think there's some niggly issues. And I think you're right. Not having that being able to fire your bionic arm horizontally is a weirdly strange omission. I think you should be able to do
missing.
that. I don't know why it is, but there you go. Yeah, it's all right. Interestingly, there was a proper sequel to this. On the 360, did you ever play it?
Yeah, I have a feeling I did, but I don't remember much of it. If I did.
It took 10 years. I've got the plot up here. It took 10 years after the original game. It follows Major Nathan Rad Spencer, who's voiced by Mike Patton, weirdly, from Faith No More.
random.
He's a government operative working in the fictional Ascension City, and an operative named Joseph Gibson, aka Super Joe.
Ah, there you go.
So there you go. It turns out that Super Joe, though, is actually the bad guy in Bionic Commando. And
knew it all
your
along.
bionic arm is powered by the spirit of your dead wife.
Wow, that took a dark turn all of a sudden.
There you go. Because there's something about, according to Super Joe, in order for bionics to work perfectly, they have to sync with their host on both an emotional and physical level. In this case, Spencer's wife was the perfect candidate.
Leak.
So, yeah.
Leak.
It's all very odd. There you go. So yeah, that was that C360 version. I'm not sure if it was okay. I think that 360 version, but just weird that I just interested that it had Super Joe back in it.
Who did the music for the 360 version then?
Jamie Christopherson was the composer.
Chris Christopherson's nephew.
Christopherson, quite possibly. Yeah,
Well,
Could very well
we've got a reasonable chance of that being right.
you have. Yeah, it could be Bob Christopherson for all I know.
It could be Christopherson the clown.
It could be anyone. I don't know. But anyway, there you go. Bionic Commando and its strange offshoot. All right, there we go. It's Bionic Commando. It's all right. Let's move on to our next one. Okay, this is also from Go. That last one was from Go, wasn't it? Go. It's a Go double bill. Go double bill.
It made me laugh because in the review, the Bionic Commandos are like, "Go back! They've done a great thing." Yeah.
Yeah, and then they've done a bad thing. This is Lazer Tag. It's got 22%, full price, $9.99. This is, as I said, it's an 8-bit version as a craze of the 80s of running around and shooting at your mates with lasers comes to life. But hang on. This has a plot. It's got a plot, Graham. This is straight from the back of the box. Transport yourself to the year 3010, where competition and sport have replaced bloodthirsty lust for violence and confrontation. Yes, you'll experience the danger of combat. Yes, you'll feel the rush of adrenaline as you face your challenge. But this battlefield does not render injury. It creates a fever-pitch atmosphere of nerve-jangling exhilaration and pulsating excitement. Sharpen your reflexes and test your energy levels as one round of Lazer Tag makes the ultimate demands of concentration and skill on your mind and body alike. Did you get that from this?
No.
No. It may be true in real life when you play Lazer Tag. Yeah, fine. Computer game? Anyway, this was designed by Dominic Wood, and it was coded by Keith Purkis. Do you remember him, Graham?
His name rings a frosty bell.
He did It's a Knockout.
Oh, God.
And Last Mission. And has music by Jazz C. Brook. Or Jason Brook, whatever his name is. When the game loads, we can see who made it and curse them. And we have some options, such as 1 or 2 players, which is stupid. If you play, I played it in 2 players, thinking, whatever, but you just play through it in player 1 until you get game over, and then player 2 gets a go. That's not how 1 or 2 players work. It's usually lose a life, give it to the next one. You play it intermittently. That's how 2 players works. Or you have 2 players on screen at once, which would have also been a thing maybe you could have done in this. So I don't know. That's stupid. You can have the music on or off in game and the sound effects off or on in game. Pressing F7 starts. What we have here is a rather crappy Commando clone with bouncing bullets, or lasers, should I say. An awful level design. So, interestingly, this is probably the only interesting about the game is made up of 2 modes, shootout and target. So when you start, you are in shootout mode. This is essentially Commando. So you run around with a view from the top and behind the player. You leg it upwards, and other taggers, what are they called? What are other people? Laser taggers?
Unfortunately, yeah, but I think it must be a laser tagger.
Tagger. They appear and they fire at you. You can fire at them, you shoot at them, blah, blah, blah. Should you get hit, if they hit you, because you've got a circle in your chest, basically, which is the target, the laser tag. It's the target. So when you're playing laser tag, you have something on your chest, don't you, which the laser hits, and then it boop, 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 fires off, and that was what it was. So you've got that on your chest, and if you get hit 3 times, it's game over. That's how this plays out. Every time you do get hit, I don't know if you found this, the controls went really weird.
Yes, every time.
They just reversed or didn't, or just kind of started pulling in the opposite direction.
Lost it, yeah.
It's like, what's happening here? I don't know. I don't know whether it's something to sort of simulate, I've been hit with a laser or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the objective for this mode is simply to make it to the top of the level where you will find a fence. Get there, and then the level repeats in target mode. So it just resets back to the beginning at the level. In this mode, the computer moves you, and you just have to shoot. So you're just pressing the fire button while the computer's running around. You don't aim or anything that I could make out. I have no idea what this is all about. I don't get it. I don't know what the point of this was. Once done, you move on to the next of the 6 levels and repeat the 2 modes. The only reason I can think there is because they only designed 6 levels. So to make it feel a bit longer, they made you repeat it twice. So there's actually 12 playthroughs. That's it. There's very little to this. The levels are really short and really can be just completed by just running through them. Just leg it. Don't bother trying to shoot. That's the worst thing you can do. Just run. There's no point in shooting. So, for a game called Lazer Tag that is based on a game about shooting, to have trying to shoot the enemies being a pain in the ass is quite the achievement. They've essentially undermined the core concept of Lazer Tag and made you not want to shoot. Maybe that was the point. Maybe it was a secret pacifism type game or something. I don't know. I don't know, because they've made you just run away. You just run to the fence. That's what this game is. It's run to the fence game. Anyway, yeah. The
lesser known Iron Maiden track.
Yeah, run to the fence.
Run for your life. Run to the fence.
Anyway,
yeah, I'm liking it.
The graphics are our favourite res. Very. Everything is oddly coloured. The main sprite is a blocky helmet. Well, it's not got a helmet, but it looks like it's got a helmet because he's got a square head. He's got a Lego head. But everyone looks the same. The music quickly gets annoying, and the sound effects are grating. The UI has both players score at the top and the words Lazer Tag, in case you forgot what you were playing. And at the bottom is the timer, and you've got a timer to get through, and the number of tags you have scored, I think, or something. There's so little to this. It's quite something. You can easily bypass everything by just running. So what's the point in calling it Lazer Tag? Why does the helicopter fly across in level 2? What is the point of this game? I mean, it works. I guess it works. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just empty. And trying to engage with the shooting it gives no enjoyment. And it actually makes it for a worse enjoyment because you'll just get disintegrated. You just get killed by all the. Because what happens is the lasers just bounce around all over the place, crazy, and the enemies will just run on and dead aim shots, and you'll be taken out in seconds. It's just what a pointless license this was. Who cares about Lazer Tag in a video game? You go play Lazer Tag. That's the whole point of it. If you want to play something like this, go play Ikari Warriors, Commando, Who Dares Wins 1, 2. If you want that kind of game, if you want Commando, go play Commando or Ikari Warriors. Go play them, because this is a crap version of those.
I thought you were going to say, if you want Commando, go Commando.
Go Commando, yeah. If you want Commando, take your pants off and just play this. Show people your tagger. All those are far superior to this. I called this Laser Gag. That was my comment. This wasn't very good. What did it get? 22%. That's about right. This wasn't particularly very good at all. There's nothing to it. It's an empty, vacuous void of a game. What did you think?
I didn't get it. I don't understand the notion of a toy turned game, essentially, which is what it is. It's a toy. It's a toy turned game.
Yeah.
I get the idea of a physical laser tag game in a space where you're running around hiding behind things and shooting out from, and I get that. I don't get this. Oh, it does not make sense. It actually reminded me of that entire speech from the Chef Aid episode of South Park when they're in court and he uses the Chewbacca defense.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, because he says, why would a Wookiee, an 8-foot-tall Wookiee, want to live on Endor with a bunch of 2-foot-tall Ewoks? That does not make sense. But more important, you have to ask yourself, what does this have to do with this case? Nothing, ladies and gentlemen. It has nothing to do with this case. It does not make sense.
Yep.
And that's this game. You look at it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
It's a physical manifestation. It's a video game manifestation of a physical act done badly. It's just weird. It's all over the place, this game. It makes no sense. It's like making a game based on Nerf guns. It's like, why would that be a thing?
Yep.
What you end up with then is like you've described an over-busy runabout. Expensive too at 10 quid. It's probably cheaper to go and play laser tag. You know, you don't have to get your tagger out and wander around with your pants off or anything. I thought oddly about this. I thought that it with a completely different game design attached to it, maybe because the game itself played pretty quick and. You know, it wasn't a very good laser tag game.
Technically, it's fine.
So maybe there's a good game. Yeah, maybe there's a good game in there, just not this. So I don't know.
Still empty.
Maybe just make the game a bit better. Make it not a laser tag game at all. Make the game about something and just do a little bit more programming. And you probably got you might have something that you could make into a game later down the line. What this is a piece of is a nasty piece of shit, really. The in-game music, by the way, was a bewildering journey, wasn't it? An odd mixture of tunes and themes. Almost like a medley of weirdness. It was okay in places, but it doesn't make sense. This game does not make sense.
No.
So, that's it.
This game can go away.
Be gone.
Be gone. Yeah, we didn't like that. Laser tag. No. All right, we've got 2 more left. Let's get into them. Graham, it's time for you to enter the 5th quadrant.
All right, Bubble Bus Ricochet release, coded by Nick Strange. That's the guy that made Starquake, isn't it? Graphics are by Nick Strange. I think so. Musician here is Paul Midcalf. His brother Lower Calf and his brother Upper Thigh all didn't have anything to do with this game. Just the Midcalf section of the family. Bobby Knees.
Bobby Knee.
So... Weirdly, I don't know if you noticed, by the way, that in the Zapped review, the tangent and 5th quadrant were printed the wrong way around in the magazine.
I realised I found that last week when I was because I did tangent, didn't I? So yeah,
just silly. So I've got a bit of a mixture of things here. I couldn't find a big manual for this. I found a little bit of blurb. It says the ship has been taken over by the Z-Men. Can you free the robot crew and recapture the ship before the time runs out and the ship's energy runs out? A desperate race against time and a stunning arcade adventure featuring 230 locations. Replenishment points, an alien language to decode, controllable subsystems, intelligent aliens, and many other incredible features too numerous to mention. I'll come back to the reason why that's a problem in a minute. So the blurb that I've then decoded from, this isn't from the instructions, this is just sort of taken from, I think, from Moby Games. After 20 years in space, the Orion has finally accomplished its task of galaxy mapping. Only one small nebula remains, but while making the intergalactic jump, the Orion is taken over by an alien race known as the Z-Men. In an attempt to get rid of the Z-Men, the players control 4 robots, Captain Slog, Plot the Navigator, Engineer Canute, and Able Spaceman Bod, which they can use one at a time. Each robot is situated in different areas of the ship. Some robots can easily navigate their way through the maze of 230 rooms, while others are temporarily trapped. When a robot comes into contact with the Z-Men, its energy is quickly drained, very quickly. When all of the energy is depleted, the robot will stop functioning, and the only way it can be restored is if a passing robot transfers its energy with the non-functional one. Nice little idea, that. The Z-Men materializes suddenly in the Orion's passageways, sounds very painful, and with deadly persistence, and can easily trap the outnumbered crew into a corner. To help them, the robots can throw bouncing bombs at the Z-Men, gaining points when they have been destroyed. Control panels scattered throughout the ship give a robot access to code screens. When decoded, these will unlock matter transmitters and lifts, meaning that the robot crew can move through the ship and closer to the ultimate goal, locking onto the bridge computer. When all 4 have done this, the Orion will be safe. So for me, this game, it kind of played like a multi-role sci-fi isometric Arctic attack. The game is pretty fast for this, and the graphics are also, I thought, pretty good. Not amazing, but okay. For budget money anyway, because this is only $1.99. There's clearly been some thought in the game design here, but the lack of instructions means you don't really know what's going on and what to do. So when it says things like, in that little blurb I read, an alien language to decode, there really is, but you've absolutely no indication or clue how to do it, amongst many other things. And when it says there are incredible features too numerous to mentioning the ones that are important, like being how you play the damn game, that's kind of critical. The instructions are so vague for this that I could find that it's almost impossible. They even make a comment of that in the Zap review to say that you really aren't going to know what's going on in this game at all.
Yeah.
Which is a big problem, isn't it? So, though there's clearly been some, like I said, some thought in the design, the lack of instructions means, what are you doing? The main game window has your isometric medium res play area in the bottom where you control any of the 4 robots with a quick click of the buttons 1 to 4. The look and feel, while perhaps a tad on the basic side in terms of colorization, it looks kind of cartoonish. And the UI at the top gives a whole bunch of information. It's a whole gang of gimmicks. It's a real winner. You'll be under constant attack, akin to the kind of Starquake Attic attack deal. So your energy will get quickly drained, and then your robots are just kind of stuck, and you've got to try to go to one of the others. And that was the kind of issue for me, because I was never able to get more into it than just wandering around as the robots, because I had no clue what I was meant to be doing. I was just going through different doors and going into different things, but I didn't know what to do. There was nothing was telling me where I should be, what should happen. I just didn't get anything that helped me at all, and I was lost in the game. I just got lost in amongst the rooms very quickly. So I spent time just as flicking between the robots, lost. And that's really disappointing, because I felt like that I might have been able to get more into this had I just been given some clearer indications of what needed to be done. But I didn't get that. It gave nothing away. So in the end, I don't know. Maybe I didn't get into it any further than that, because I found it frustrating at that point. But maybe perseverance, if you're into this, might pay off. And of course, get to the mapper, because you're going to need to map this game. And I think that, the mapping people are probably getting all very excited about something else they can, map out. Yeah. I think on the whole, there's some nice work gone into this. It just lacks the directive needed to make it engaging for you, so you know what the hell you're doing. And that is the main problem. You find, like me, probably, that I got lost, and then I got fed up, and then I switched it off. The sounds are all a bit blippy bloppy. In an episode where you've got Tim Follin's Bionic Commando, sort of clanks and clonks and more solid SID sounds, and blips and bloops and basic beeps start to sound a bit shit in comparison to that. Well, they do for a $1.99 game, but what on earth are you supposed to do in it? I don't know. Did you get anywhere in it?
No, I did not. Meandering around isometric rooms being bothered by single-coloured sprites whilst I lob balls of shit at them is not my way of enjoying myself when I play games, because that's what it looked like I was throwing at them.
Yeah, it does look a bit like that.
Balls of brown. If you hold down the fire button, you found these balls of brown crap. I don't know what it was. Why do these games insist on...
Gravy balls.
That's what they call me. Down at the club on a Friday.
Old Gravy Balls is back.
Gravy Balls is in. Look out, he's going to go full Bisto. He'll get his Oxo cubes out if you're not careful. Why do these games insist on spawning infinite enemies after you and then not giving you infinite bullets or shit pellets to deal with them? I don't know. There may be a great game in here, but the fiddly controls, it's really fiddly to try and get through doors.
Yes,
really
it is.
Fiddly. Annoying sounds. I don't know. And I thought that, just some of the backgrounds are nice, but ugly single colour enemies. No.
Yeah, some
don't
of
like
that
it.
Attic attacky vibe. It did made
it. Just put me off this really sharpish. I don't know. I didn't like this. And I think the name is far too fancy for spamming sprites with balls of shit.
Yeah, this could have been an Ultimate game, couldn't it, from some time ago? I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it could have. And it's impenetrable.
Didn't we say the same about the old Ultimate games, though? At some point, did we say that they gave so little clues away that you actually found them borderline impenetrable? And
yeah,
this is kind of leaning back on that logic.
Yeah, this reminded me of that other sort of isometric one. Was it what was that one? You were diffusing bombs.
Chimera?
No, it's that kind of one where you're moving around the rooms. There's that little sort of droid thing, and you were deactivators.
Yeah,
was it deactivators?
Yeah. It was.
It looked like that. This looked very similar. It's that same isometric kind of high res viewpoint.
Yes,
thing.
it does.
But and like you said, it is literally a 3D. I mean, it's because it's 3D. It's still all happening on a 2D plane, so it's not actually 3D. So it's just like you said, it's just Attic Attack. Wizard's Lair type nonsense. It's just room to room, moving, who doing stuff. I don't know. Yeah, there's probably work gone into this, but it's all lost. Maybe they were dead annoyed because the instructions, maybe they gave them loads of instructions, but it's a budget title, so they're not going to print out loads of instructions. So I don't know.
It must be something to do with it, because there's nothing in that instruction set that I could find that gave it anything away.
No, there isn't. Oh well, there you go. It got 32%, didn't it? I can't argue with it, if I'm honest.
No,
there you go.
I agree.
All right, got one more left. Let's get that done. It's another budget arcade adventure. This is Stormbringer, $2.99. It's got 70%. Now, this is weird. This is odd because this is the third installment in the Magic Knight series, but we've not had Nighttime yet.
No, it's the sequel to the game that doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, we do have it. It's actually the last game we'll look at in our upcoming
Did it come out
episode.
at 64, did it?
Yeah, it's in episode 100.
Yeah,
It's there, but yeah, so there's plenty of adventuring in this. It's £3. If you don't remember the plot, here we go. So this is from within the game. Welcome to Stormbringer, the concluding episode in the acclaimed Magic Knight saga. The story so far. In previous episodes, Spellbound and Nighttime. So, okay.
Nighttime's the one we don't have yet, then.
Yeah, Magic Knight rescues his friend and tutor Gimbal the Wizard from a self-inflicted whiteout spell and then finds himself catapulted into the 25th century aboard the starship USS Pisces. Having acquired a second-hand time machine from the Time Guardians, Magic Knight finally reaches his own time and planet, but with a slight problem. I presume that's nighttime. Whilst travelling back, a serious malfunction occurred with the second-hand time machine, and now, horror of horrors, there are two Magic Knights. The other Magic Knight is a real nasty piece of work. He calls himself the Off-White Knight, but locally is known as the Stormbringer because of his powerful and dangerous storm cloud, which he's planning to use to destroy Magic Knight. In your role as Magic Knight, you realise that you cannot kill Stormbringer, because if you do, you will destroy yourself in the process. The only way for you to become your old self again is to merge with him. Good luck, Magic Knight. So, as I've noted here, did we play Nighttime? I had to go looking. I was like, we haven't played it yet. Like, oh, God. So we're playing these 1, 3, 2.
It's out in the Spectrum, though, I think.
It's quite possibly. But obviously, it might be out. It could have been out on the C64, just Zap haven't reviewed it. Remember, we are beholden to Zap's review schedule, so...
Yes, that's very true. But I think it did come out in the Spectrum, so maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember us looking at it anyway. I remember Spellbound, but not that one. Anyway, it's on the same team as Finders Keepers. I know they say the Magic Knight's out, but Finders Keepers the first one, Spellbound Nighttime. And this creation of this by David Jones and Paul Freeman, and music this time is by David Whittaker. And I'll be honest here. This is a weird episode because both parts of this episode are ending with what do we say about this that we didn't say about the last one. So Infiltrator II, what do we say about it that we didn't say about Infiltrator? And what do we say about this that we didn't say about Spellbound? Because I'm pretty sure you could, apart from the Hubbard music, I'm pretty sure you could probably just go listen back to this and we'll have the same problems. It uses the same engine. It does seem a little bit faster. I think there's been some optimization behind the scenes, but again, this is 2 games later, not 1 game later. So it uses the same Windymation technique of choosing actions. So a stab of the fire button pops open a window, and from here we can pick up objects, drop them, take them. Isn't that the same as pick up? I don't know.
I would say it was.
I would say it is. You can give objects to some people. You can examine. You can read something. You can cast a spell, and you can wear something. You can wear something straight away. If you want to listen to the music, wear the personal stereo that's in your inventory at the start, as that's how you activate it. And to be honest, it's a pretty decent tune actually. It's not a bad Whittaker piece. It's no Spellbound, but it's okay. And better than the silence you would otherwise wander around in. So yeah, as Magic Knight, you have to wander from screen to screen of Spectrum-style visuals, complete with colour clash, and pick up objects, use them in the right place, solve puzzles, talk to characters, and try and figure out how exactly you are going to merge with your off-white other self, Stormbringer. Like I said, it does feel a bit faster than Spellbound, so selecting some options is a bit snappier. It's also cumbersome to go through 3 button presses just to pick something up. Like, feels annoying. It's like click, pick it up, and then 4 if you count getting out of the menu system, and even more button presses for other options. So what they've done is clever in bringing that adventure aesthetic to an arcade style game. And we said this about Spellbound, but we've seen this before, and so this all comes down to whether you like loads of screens of finding objects to try and figure out where they can be used. We've seen so many games like this. This is a real throwback. We said this, like like Garfield and stuff. We've seen a couple of these recently, but they really kind of went out of vogue a little bit. But I can't say I was glad to see it come back. You know, we were never the biggest, evangelist of this kind of type of gameplay. Each screen has a name for it, but it all gets very samey, and you can tell this is just another Spectrum game ported straight over with no attempt to try and make it look nicer or make use of the extra features that the 64 has. You could have made this look like Antiriad. You could have done something with the visuals, but there isn't. There's nothing. It just looks like a Spectrum game. There's not much to say about it. It's more of Spellbound. If you liked Spellbound, you'll probably, be all dizzy for this as well. It's a real example. If you like this kind of thing, you'll probably like this. But I don't know. This is the third one. Even if you do, maybe this is getting a bit long in the tooth by now. And I don't know. I wasn't enamored to revisit this or this kind of gameplay. We said everything about it in Spellbound, and it's also really obtuse where you can use items, when you can't, who you can talk to, what's going on, what you're doing. It's it's like we said about the previous game, Fifth Quadrant. You've no idea real what to do. It's a proper just wander, find stuff. I was killed by a bear wolf at some point just because. Can I walk into that? Oh no, you died. Oh, okay, well it just looks like the background. Because there's no definition or delineation between that object and the background. So I just walked into it and I was dead. Okay, right. It was a big monster, so maybe I should have known, but, so what? So I started again, wandered about a bit, talked to Robin Hood or somebody or other who was about, and he didn't have a lot to say. And it's just, I don't know. I find these games trying and boring. But, maybe that's just me. I get some people like them, but it ain't for me. What about you?
Yeah, it's a sequel to a game that isn't reviewed yet. Weird, isn't it? I think Nighttime's in the September issue was up, isn't it, for 1988?
Yeah, it's like I said,
so, it's just weird. So more Magic Knight shenanigans that I couldn't give a toss about, really. Pointless and click. Messing about on the old flip screen game again, using that horrible point and click selector thing, which is just stupidly frustrating, I think. But if you like it, if you like the other ones, you're going to like more of it, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
I felt that it felt a little dated. The graphics looked a bit clunky. The interface was a bit clunky now. Things had moved. I thought things had moved on a little bit, but you know what? It's a game engine, isn't it? So it's just more adventure in that game engine space. And you can still die from exhaustion. Stupid, which is exactly what I did when I was confronted with this similoid of every other Magic Knight game I couldn't be arsed with. Spellbound all over again for me, and if you like that, you'll dig it. I didn't, so I won't. But it is still budget price, and I suppose that's something. That is something, for people that like these big, expansive, pointless and click games and all these I don't know, what is this? Not a pointless and click. This is more of a, it's a action adventure puzzle game, isn't it? Whatever you call them. If you like Spellbound, you're going to like more of it, aren't you? I didn't. I always thought I did. And it turns out I really don't. So, no, not for me, this. But I do admire that they stuck to the budget price for them. At least they did that. So, but it got 70%, which is quite high, I feel, for something that's basically the same as the previous game. But, okay, it's £3. So I'll let it go.
Yeah.
Not for me, Stormbringer. Not for me at all. It's just Spellbound times 2. It's like Infiltrator the second day. This is Spellbound the day after. It's the same deal for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, no, not for me.
Not for me either, really. There we go. A disappointing chunk of games this week, I feel. A couple of
Just
decent ones.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Decent ones to start each part off, and then that was it, really. It's a shame. Oh, well, there we go. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. So what have we looked at? We have looked at Brainstorm, which we liked, which was interesting, clever. Karnov, which is, I think it's safe to say we didn't like.
No, it's an abomination.
And it's twinned with Pro Golf.
Which is Golf Harris. We don't want to ever talk about
golf,
that.
yeah. Infiltrator 2, the same game.
Yeah, the same game the next day.
Yeah. It's just like, it's Groundhog Day. They should have called it Infiltrator 2 Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
Groundhog
Day, yeah.
Bionic Commandos, which was all right, but maybe a bit overly highly rated. Lazer Tag, which was pointless.
Yeah.
Fifth Quadrant, which was impenetrable.
Yep.
And Stormbringer, which was Spellbound, Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly that.
I don't know what else to say about it. There we go. Right. So that's it. That's July done. There's no crap verts, I'm afraid. I couldn't find any. Adverts are getting a bit better these days, and I'm struggling to find any, so never mind. But we can look at the charts. Right. We've got the charts here. So counting down from number 10, a re-entry at number 10 is Soccer Boss by Alternative. This isn't Football Manager, it's a separate name, but I'm still thinking. A re-entry at number 9 is Ace by Cascade.
Okay.
Down to number 8 is Pac-Land. New entry At number 7 is Impossible Mission 2.
Okay.
Up to number 6 is Way of the Exploding Fist.
Curious.
Down to number 5 is Ghostbusters. A new entry at number 4 is Yogi Bear.
Okay.
Have we seen that?
We played a Yogi Bear
played a
game.
Yogi
I don't know if
Bear
it's
one.
that Yogi Bear game, though.
I don't know. I think it is. I
It
don't
wasn't
know.
very good.
No. Staying at number 3 is We Are the Champions. That's the compilation. Up to number 2 is Target Renegade, but
It is.
still holding off all comers for some reason is Steve Davis Snooker.
How is that happening?
Because Steve Davis is going around all the shops where he lives and buying every copy.
Well, do you know, he was at his peak when he had popularity, though, Steve Davis. At this point, he was like, I think he just won the world championship again, hadn't he? Or something like that.
Quite possibly,
He was
actually,
very
yeah.
popular in the 80s, wasn't he?
It was, yeah.
So I wonder if he's riding on the crest that people were going, you know what, I really want to play snooker. Let's get that computer version. And then they'll go, this is nothing like snooker.
I hate you, Steve Davis.
I'll get you, Steve Davis.
Yeah. There you go. What else was in the charts? At number 11 was Fruit Machine Simulator. Re-entry at number 12. Loads of re-entries. Aliens, from Mastertronic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It must be one of the re-releases. Staying at 13, Grand Prix Simulator. A new entry, Shanghai Karate at number 14.
Oh, no.
Don't recognise that.
That doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound good. 15, a re-entry Match Day 2. 16, a re-entry Grog's Revenge. 17, a re-entry FA Cup Football. Outruns at 18. Dan Dare at 19. And Trapdoor down to number 20.
How many of the games that we've reviewed in the last 4 episodes are in that chart?
Target Renegade. Impossible Mission 2.
Impossible Mission 2.
Pac-Land.
I think, is that it?
Maybe Fruit Machine Simulator. I can't
I
remember
think
what
that's
that was.
it.
Yeah, not a lot.
Because all the others are all re-releases or old releases, aren't
Well,
they?
if you look at this, Mastertronic, we've got 1, 2, 3. Powerhouse, I think, are a budget. Players
Goodness
are.
me,
Codemasters.
at
It's all
that.
Mastertronic. It's all, it's all budget. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Exactly.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Interesting.
11. 11 of those titles are budget.
Goodness me.
Yeah, weird, huh?
Crazy.
I know. Next month, what have we got coming up next month? Well, we're back
what
to a
have we got
3
coming up?
episode. There's 27 games in August.
Okay.
So we've got Aquanaut. No idea. Barbarian 2.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Beyond the Ice Palace. We finally get round to
Okay.
reviewing Bruce Lee.
Oh, of course, because it's come back out again, hasn't
It's
it?
come
So
back
I might
out,
as well
yeah.
do that.
There's a game called Chubby Gristle.
Don't like the sound of
That
that.
sounds unpleasant. Gristle on its own is bad, but Chubby Gristle is... Ugh.
Yeah.
There's a we've had a game based on crisps. We've had a game based on crockery. And now we've got Crazy Paving.
I'm not holding out much hope for that.
We've got a game based on pavements, walkways.
Maybe it isn't.
Maybe Dark Castle, Dark
That's
Side.
interesting.
That's the follow driller,
that's
isn't it?
Freescape, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, Desolator.
It's a good title.
Yeah, Destruct,
Okay.
Dream Warrior. Oh, I'm looking forward to this one. Every second counts. That's the
Is that a game show?
that's the
innit?
Bob Monkhouse
Oh, God's sake.
game show one. Yeah, the Flintstones.
Okay.
That's the second version of that. That's not the one we played before. It's a different one.
Yeah.
The game's Winter Edition.
Okay.
The second gold medal, Hawkeye, because Barbarian 2 was as well. Hawkeye.
Oh, Hawkeye was good. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, this one, Hercules. This is actually Hercules Sword of the Damned.
Oh, gosh.
I had a look. I had a check through this today just to check it was the right one. And as soon as the font came up, I was like, I recognise that font. So I checked on Lemon 64,
Oh, dear.
and it's the same people who did Samurai Warrior.
Oh, okay.
You know, the option simulator with Wo Ping and Ping Cho
yeah.
and King Long or whatever.
Oh, no.
It's there. It's the next one.
Oh. Okay.
I've given that to you. Hopping Mad, no idea. Legend of the
Okay.
Sword, don't know.
Right.
Marauder,
Okay.
Metropolis. I think that Legend of the Sword is an adventure because Mordon's Quest is an adventure as well. Oops. Or Oops.
Okay,
Oops.
there it is, finally.
Poltergeist. That's
Okay.
I know that is. That's Rayburn.
Okay.
Questron 2, I think that's another adventure. Shackled.
It's about chairs.
I was going to say, is it about high seat chairs? Yeah. I hear they're lovely.
It's lovely.
I hear they are. They're
My
great
niece
when you're getting
bought
on a
this from
bit.
Shackleton's, you know.
Starcross, which is,
Okay.
again might be an adventure. Star Wars Droids.
I don't remember the cartoon being very good for that, so.
Yeah, it's, Street Fighter.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
And now, interestingly, and I'll say this now, there's a US version.
Oh, okay. Well, it might be more interesting to see what that's like.
It is. It's Super Trolley. No idea. To Hell and
Okay.
Back. That's not going to be as good as it
Okay.
sounds, is it? Tower of Despair.
No.
I think that's another adventure. And
How does
finally,
that?
And finally, Vixen.
Yeah, the dubiously titled Vixen. Of course, they couldn't call it that in Germany, could they? As we all know.
Could they not?
It's called She-Wolf. No, it's called, because Vixen is a swear word in German. I think it's called She-Wolf in Germany.
Why is Vixen a swear word?
Because Vixen means wanker in German.
Oh, does it? Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just thought it was
Yeah,
a sort of female fox.
No, it is here, but not in Germany. You go around looking for female foxes, you better be calling them by the right name in Germany, or you're going to get dumbshrouded. Your Schwanzducker's going to get kicked.
I'm going to get Schrugelfrund. And on that slightly dubious note, right, yeah, that's it. So that's it. That's July done. That's not a great month. Great Grey Analysis was good.
Yes, it was.
Brainstorm was good, and Bionic Commandos.
Yeah, a lot of the others weren't so good, were they? Just tragic heaps with lots of overcomplicated nonsense and lots of lack of effort and just bad stuff all around.
Yeah, indeed. I've already said about our Patreon. You can go do that, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. If you don't want to do that, that's cool. But if you could take the time, rate reviewers, iTunes, that kind of thing. That's always good. It gets us out and about there. Drop us a line if you want. We're fast approaching episode 100.
Episode 100, woo!
Yeah, if you've got anything you want to say about any games we've covered at all, really, in the 100 episodes we'll have done by then, go drop us a line about them. Tell us if we were wrong, if we were right, whatever. Just don't come at us and just say, why do you hate Vector games? It's like, we do.
No, boring now. But I'll tell you what, I'll issue a challenge for anyone that wants to review a game. If you can do it in 100 words, that'd be impressive.
Yeah, so let's have it.
Do the 100-word challenge. See if you can do a 100-word review of any, just in a game, because 100 words ain't a lot. See what you can say about any of the games from July that we've just talked about, any of the games from any of the previous
you can email it to us.
Want to think about.
Facebook,
email it in.
Twitter, anything you want. We'd be quite happy to see that and get as much as we can in for episode 100. That's July. That means we've only got 5 months left of 1988. A lot of episodes though still to come. A lot of episodes.
Yes, a lot of episodes, a lot of games, some good ones, and also of course the crapagory for the Crapo de Tutti Crapo is rapidly reaching critical mass. This is Chernobyl levels of crazy at the moment.
Yeah, before it was not great, not terrible. Now it's getting beyond that. It's getting
unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone needs to pump the graphite rods in quickly. Otherwise, half of Europe's going to disappear.
This honestly, it's getting bad. There's a lot in there. They're crammed in like the ghosts in that Ghostbusters thing.
or like Monty Burns' illnesses.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't. No, you're so ill. We can't even have a word for it. But they're all so finely balanced that not one illness can take control.
Yeah, exactly that. They're all equally fighting for the crown of the crap.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to win.
So for episode 100, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts even on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there games that you consider the Crapo de Tutti Crapo? Are there things we've missed? Should we put things in? Should we take stuff out? You help us out with that. You can always, just email us, write in, do all of that stuff.
Indeed, just let us know. On that note, I think I think we should call it quits on that one.
Yeah, I think let's bring this beating to an end.
Indeed. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Groundhog Day Mills.
And I have been Graham Karnov Raddings.
and you have been listening to a Spectrum emulated version of Zapped to the Past. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.